Across the vast sea shrouded in darkness and bitter cold, a lone figure appeared in the distance, rowing a boat. He kept rowing tirelessly despite his obvious exhaustion. Sweat streamed down his face as he thought, the poison has spread through my body, I'll probably pass out soon. Yoon Jipyong reached into his pocket searching for something, hoping to meet Handong even an hour sooner. A moment later, he pulled out a dazzling golden badge engraved with an eagle emblem. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the air, finally caught up with you, startling Yoon Jipyong. He looked into the distance, his pupils shrinking in shock. Ahead of Yoon Jipyong's boat stood a massive ship with several people aboard. A figure with clawed feet stepped forward and mocked, "You actually managed to escape this far, Pai Seoja." By the white-faced divine nun looked down at him with contempt. "But this is as far as you go, so surrender." Yoon Jipyong stood up and shouted, "Shut up, by the white-faced divine nun, I never will." Before he could finish, a large mouthful of blood burst from his lips. Yoon Jipyong collapsed onto the boat, coughing violently, while by the white-faced divine nun mocked, still struggling, "You can barely move now." She smugly persuaded him, "Just surrender, won't you? Lord Jucho promised you a position if you return." Sweat poured off Yoon Jipyong as he said weakly, "Do you think I crave power, you traitor?" Hearing those words, by the white-faced divine nun froze for a brief moment. A faint smile curled on her lips as she muttered, "A traitor." By the white-faced divine nun stared at him coldly and said, "I simply followed the greater cause. The world is changing and this is Lord Jucho's era. The Sura clan you valued so much is already gone." Her words pierced Yoon Jipyong's heart like a blade, leaving him speechless. Yoon Jipyong clenched the jade pendant in his hand, then carefully put it back into his pocket. "If you still had any loyalty to your former comrades, you wouldn't have forced me to this." He stood up and stomped down with all his strength, shattering the boat into pieces. The act left by the white-faced divine nun stunned. A dark blue aura mixed with powerful lightning erupted around Yoon Jipyong. She quickly covered her face and cried out in shock, "What?" A brilliant sphere of energy gathered in his hand as Yoon Jipyong roared, "This is my answer." His energy sphere slammed directly into by the white-faced divine nun's ship, making it shake violently before splitting apart. She gritted her teeth in disbelief. He's still this powerful. The assassins aboard finally lost patience and charged together. No more negotiations, kill him now. The scene shifted to a peaceful blue coastline. South Haesung province, at a humble thatched house. Someone slowly opened the door with a creaking sound. That person quietly sneaked outside on tiptoe. Suddenly, a girl's voice called from behind, "Where are you going?" The voice startled him so badly he nearly jumped, and the boy from Jinbeek village awkwardly turned around, stammering, "Midden." Jinbeek's younger sister, Midden, stood with her hands on her hips and frowned. "Trying to sneak out again? Grandpa told me to make sure you don't leave." Jinbeek scratched his head awkwardly and pointed at the door. "No, I'm really not going out today. I heard Beekbung's father passed away." Before he finished, she blocked his way. "He died last month." Midden shot him a sharp look. "Does brother Beekbung have that many fathers?" Realizing he was caught, Jinbeek could only laugh awkwardly. Midden shook her head and sighed. "Not this time. You can leave only after Grandpa allows it." Jinbeek pleaded, "Midden, please." Suddenly remembering something, Jinbeek offered a deal. "I saw a super pretty mirror at the market yesterday. I'll buy it for you." Unsatisfied with one offer, he added, "I'll also bring you some malt candy on the way back." Hearing that, Midden began to waver and thought it over. A moment later, she agreed, "Fine, but no more than 3 hours." Having succeeded, Jinbeek dashed off. "Thanks, sis." Just as he excitedly rushed out, a sturdy figure blocked his path. Rubbing his sore nose, Jinbeek looked up. He muttered, "What the?" The person before him held a small branch, wearing a terrifying expression. Jinbeek's eyes widened as sweat poured down his face, and he stammered, "Grandpa." Jin Chu furiously whipped him with the branch. "Is it really that hard to stay home when I tell you to? If you've got that much energy, come learn hunting from me." Jinbeek could only cover his head while desperately explaining, "But hasn't it always been said that a real man should have great dreams?" He shouted, "I told you I don't like trivial things like hunting." That only made Jin Chu angrier as he roared, "What did you just say?" The angrier Jin Chu became, the harder he whipped Jinbeek. "Where did you learn such nonsense? Was it Beekbong?" Seeing things go too far, Midden hurriedly pleaded, "Grandpa." By the time the chaotic commotion ended, night had fallen over the quiet sea. Jinbeek frowned and let out a weary sigh. Looking up at the sky, he grumbled, "Grandpa is so old-fashioned. I'm not a little kid anymore." A strong wind swept through Jinbeek's hair as he murmured, "I'm tired of this boring life. If I'm born into this world, I should live gloriously." Jinbeek imagined how cool he'd look after mastering martial arts, becoming a wandering swordsman riding a black horse while wearing a beast hide. He eagerly pictured traveling the world, capturing villains, earning fame, and becoming known everywhere. Lost in the fantasy, Jinbeek jumped up laughing. Just imagining it is exciting. Then he'd meet a lady in danger and defeat her enemies in a single strike. He immersed himself in the fantasy as the lady asked, "Oh, great hero, may I know your honorable name? Please tell this humble girl, it's my lifelong wish." Jinbeek's imagination soared so far he could have been an actor. "My name isn't anything special, but since you're so curious, I'll tell you." He proudly pointed at himself and declared, "I am Hwaryeongchin Jinbeek." Jinbeek was so thrilled he nearly burst with joy, leaping into the air. This is the beginning of the great martial hero Jinbeek. While he was enjoying himself, someone shouted, "Everyone, get out of the way." Suddenly, a huge wave crashed straight into Jinbeek, leaving him soaked and utterly confused. Jinbeek looked over in confusion. "Damn it, I was lost in the moment. Where did that wave come from?" Suddenly, his pupils contracted. He froze as he stared at someone lying on the shore. Jinbeek panicked, unable to speak. What? The badge on Yoon Jipyong's clothes was exposed. Jinbeek wondered in shock, a person. The scene shifted to a magnificent palace where a figure walked forward slowly. That person's back alone made the surrounding officials tremble. Juch strode forward with imposing authority. His eyes swept upward as if evaluating something. Juch waved his hand excitedly and shouted, "Your Majesty, are you still not coming out?" He raised his voice even louder. "I can't believe you can sleep while the nation is in such chaos." The officials turned pale with fear. Jucho cleared his throat and called out, "Please put on your imperial robe and come out, Your Majesty." Seeing things going too far, an official hurried over to stop him. "Prime Minister, how can you do this? This is His Majesty's chamber." He kept persuading him, "This violates court etiquette and the proper conduct of officials." Before he could finish, Jucho grabbed his chin. With immense strength, Jucho lifted the official completely off the ground. The official's face turned pale from suffocation as he gasped, "What?" Jucho frowned with contempt. "You're the rude one, daring to raise your voice at me." The next second, Jucho hurled the official far away. Without the slightest mercy, he sent the man to his death as the official's body slowly collapsed. After dealing with him, Jucho turned toward the trembling man before him and said, "Your Majesty, your health keeps declining, and it deeply worries me." Jucho politely suggested, "What does Your Majesty think of going south to recover for a while? Of course, there's no need to worry about state affairs." The emperor trembled, unable to say a word. A calculating smile appeared on Jucho's face as he patted his chest. "Since the late emperor's reign, I have devoted myself to the people, and I will continue building this nation with all my heart." After hearing him, all the officials could only stand there trembling in silence as the emperor weakly replied, "Very well, I shall do as you say." The scene shifted to another noisy place as Jin Chu's furious shouting echoed through the yard. "You brat Jinbeek." Chasing Jinbeek around the yard with a switch, he yelled, "You slept outside again? I won't let this slide." Jinbeek ran for his life while protesting, "You never let me off anyway." Looking back, he explained, "I fell asleep on the beach without realizing it." Jin Chu grew even angrier. "Stop lying, what trouble did you get into this time?" Jinbeek nervously thought, "I can't tell Grandpa I found someone lying there last night, or it'll only make things worse." Jin Chu kept shouting, "Jinbeek, are you going to stop or not?" Midden could only watch from afar and sigh helplessly. After a while, Jin Chu was exhausted and stopped to catch his breath. "Enough, enough, I'll let you off." Then he added, "Here, take this." Jinbeek blinked in surprise. "Huh?" Without another word, Jin Chu tossed him a large sack. "Take this venison to old Wang's butcher shop and bring the money back." Jinbeek quickly caught it. "Me, Grandpa, aren't you going?" Hearing that, Jin Chu's anger flared again, his eyes blazing. Seeing this, Jinbeek quickly gave in. "All right, I'll go." At the bustling market crowded with people, old Wang cheerfully handed him a string of coins and reminded him, "Here's the money, don't cause trouble and go straight home." Jinbeek happily accepted it. "Yes, sir." He carefully tucked the coins into his pocket while thinking, "Maybe I should buy something to eat." Oh right, Midden wanted a hand mirror. A noisy crowd gathered in the distance, catching Jinbeek's attention. Excited, he squeezed through the crowd. "Let me through, what's going on?" Looking inside, Jinbeek froze. An old man lay on the ground before him, while a little child beside him cried loudly. A huge man stood over them, glaring down with an intimidating stare. The man bent down with a sneer. "Friend, why not mind your own business instead of interfering with mine?" One of his lackeys said. "Boss, he doesn't seem to be from this village, so he doesn't know who we are." The surrounding people were astonished. Why is that young man getting involved? Those thugs are so vicious even the local authorities ignore them. The old man glanced at the sword in the young man's hand and wondered, so he carries a sword for a reason, but can one man really defeat all 5 of them? Handong remained silent for a moment before slowly speaking with a sharp gaze. "Why would I need a sword against pitiful trash like you?" His words left the entire gang stunned. The leader ground his teeth in fury. "You." Then they all charged at Handong together. "This brat has a death wish." Handong looked at the arrogant gang and sighed helplessly. The next second, Handong raised his hand and gathered his internal energy. In the blink of an eye, Handong had already shifted to another position. The entire gang froze in confusion. "What? How is that possible?" Suddenly, one of the thugs spat out a mouthful of blood. Then the rest of the thugs were struck down as well. Jinbeek stood outside with his mouth hanging open. Everyone watching cried out, What just happened?" Handong stood still facing the thugs while the stunned crowd wondered. He never even moved, so how did he do that? Is he a great martial artist? Jinbeek's eyes sparkled with excitement and he couldn't close his mouth. "Amazing, absolutely amazing." Handong turned away with a sigh. "How pathetic." Suddenly, someone called out from behind, "Sir." Jinbeek hurried over and asked, "Was that martial arts just now? Are you from the martial world?" Jinbeek kept chattering, "This is my first time meeting someone from the martial world. It's incredible. Can you tell me how I can learn that?" Handong's face remained ice cold. He turned around without answering, and Jinbeek quickly reached out to stop him. Jinbeek refused to give up and kept pestering him. "If someone asks you something, you should answer. Can't you hear me? Hey." While talking excitedly, Jinbeek suddenly slipped. "This is my first time meeting someone from the martial world." He fell flat on the ground, and Handong could only watch helplessly. The string of coins from selling the venison flew out because of the fall. Jinbeek hurried to grab it. "This is bad." He quickly gathered everything up. "My money should be all right. Handong's gaze suddenly fell on him, and his eyes widened in shock. Jinbeek was holding a golden badge in his hand. Jinbeek hurriedly stuffed the fallen items into his pocket. "Sorry about that. If you don't mind, please come to my house for a meal." Before he could finish, Handong grabbed him tightly by the collar. Killing intent surged from Handong as he asked, "Who are you? Why do you have that?" Jinbeek's collar tightened further as he asked in confusion, "What?" Handong's face darkened as he demanded, "Who are you? How did you get that?" Jinbeek had no idea what was happening. Why all of a sudden?" Handong pressed harder. "That golden badge you hid, how did it end up in your hands?" Sensing danger, Jinbeek shouted, "I wasn't hiding it. Let me go, you're killing me." Seeing Jinbeek struggle harder and harder, Handong froze and thought, "He's even weaker than I expected. He can't even break free. With strength like this, there's no way he could have harmed Senior Pai Sioja." Handong gradually lost patience, partially drew his sword and warned, "Speak now. If you lie, I'll kill you." Seeing the gleaming blade, Jinbeek turned pale and screamed. His whole body trembled as he stammered, "At the sea." A body washed ashore. Hearing that, Handong froze completely. Unable to accept it, Handong grabbed Jinbeek again and shouted, "A body? Don't lie, what did he look like? What was he wearing?" Jinbeek hurriedly answered, "Around 40 years old, wearing fine clothes." Suddenly, he remembered something important. Right, there was an X-shaped scar on his forehead. Then he hurriedly begged, "I can't breathe." Handong let go and Jinbeek collapsed to his knees, clutching his throat and coughing non-stop. Handong immediately asked, "Where is the body now?" After calming down, Jinbeek replied, "I buried him in the windbreak forest nearby." Handong urgently said, "Take me there now." On the nearby shore, by the white-faced divine nun stood staring at the rolling waves. Suddenly, 2 assassins appeared behind her and respectfully said, "Lady by the white-faced divine nun." By the white-faced divine nun turned around and sternly asked, "Have you found Pai Sioja?" One assassin reported, "We've searched the entire surrounding area but found no trace." Her brows tightened as she thought, "He clearly drifted here and we've searched every nearby area, if that's the case." After a moment, by the white-faced divine nun concluded, "Pai Sioja is still alive. Search every corner of the village." The assassins immediately replied, "Yes, ma'am." As the sun slowly set, deep inside the bamboo forest, Jinbeek led Handong to Yoon Jipyong's grave. Handong knelt on the ground, his face filled with sorrow and unmistakable grief. Jinbeek awkwardly explained, "I was alone when I found him, so I didn't know what else to do except bury him here." Tears streamed down Handong's cheeks. He collapsed over the freshly made grave and cried out in anguish, "Senior Pai Sioja." Handong furiously clawed at the dirt. Rage surged through him as he ground his teeth. "Jucho, you bastard, I'll uncover the truth no matter what. Even if I must shed blood, I won't give up." Jinbeek stood frozen, thinking, Jucho, I feel like I've heard that name somewhere before. Pushing aside his grief, Handong politely said, thank you for helping Senior, and I'm sorry for misunderstanding you earlier. He stood up, bowed respectfully, and said, I'll take my leave now. Jinbeek quickly stopped him. Wait, you're leaving already? Handong asked. Is there anything else I need to do here? Jinbeek was speechless. No, I mean. Jinbeek pointed at the sky and said, the sun's setting and it'll be dark soon. If you don't have a place to stay, spend the night at my house. Handong firmly refused. No need, I have somewhere to be. Before he could finish, his stomach growled loudly. Jinbeek eagerly said, just come with me. My family already has dinner ready. Embarrassed by the situation, Handong reluctantly agreed. Having successfully invited a skilled martial artist home, Jinbeek secretly grinned. This is my chance to learn martial arts. I'm so excited. Handong sighed helplessly and followed him. Then I'll trouble you for one night. Every move they made was watched by an assassin. The assassins silently watched them leave. Meanwhile, by the white-faced divine nun angrily shouted, you useless fools, still haven't found him. Is finding one person really that difficult? An assassin rushed over from afar and reported, Lady by the white-faced divine nun. She turned around suspiciously and asked, have you found Pai Sioja? He honestly replied, not yet, but we've found Handong. Hearing that name, by the white-faced divine nun widened her eyes in disbelief. A mysterious smile spread across her face. By the white-faced divine nun looked into the distance and mocked, what an unexpected surprise. Back at Jinbeek's lively home, Midden and Jin Chu were preparing dinner when Jinbeek called out, Midden, I'm home. He happily walked in and introduced Handong. We have a guest, so please prepare another meal. Midden curiously looked at the man behind him. Who's that? Jinbeek immediately leaned over and whispered slyly, he's going to teach me martial arts. Midden looked confused but nodded. What did you say? All right, wait a moment. Jin Chu had been sitting silently, carefully observing Handong. He sensed an overwhelming aura coming from him. His eyes immediately widened in shock. Jin Chu quickly stood up and asked, are you from the martial world? Handong answered firmly, yes. Jin Chu suddenly shouted, why has someone from the martial world come to my house? Please leave. Jinbeek was startled and hurriedly stepped in. Grandpa. Jinbeek grabbed Jin Chu's arm in panic. What's wrong? He's our guest. Jin Chu angrily replied, a guest. Seeing this, Handong explained, I don't think being a martial artist is a problem. I only came with him to stay the night. Hearing the reasonable explanation, Jin Chu fell silent. After thinking for a while, he finally agreed. Since it's already night, you may stay, but leave first thing tomorrow morning. Suddenly, Handong's eyes widened in shock. He stared at the uneven scar on Jin Chu's chest and wondered, that scar. Handong kept staring at it in confusion. A pressure point sealing wound? Jin Chu helplessly asked. Why did you bring a martial artist here? Seeing him upset, Midden hurried over. Grandpa, please go rest in your room. Brother, wait a moment. Jinbeek happily waved. Coming. Handong was still stunned, countless questions filling his mind. A pressure point sealing technique means someone's martial arts were forcibly crippled. Was that old man once part of the martial world? Jinbeek smiled brightly and said, I'll show you to your room. As they walked, Jinbeek introduced himself. Actually, I'm not sure how to explain myself. My name is Jinbeek. What's yours? Handong stayed silent for a moment before coldly refusing. We probably won't meet again, so there's no reason to reveal my identity. An awkward silence filled the air, leaving Jinbeek speechless. Jinbeek scratched his head awkwardly. I see. Please forgive what happened earlier. My grandfather hates martial arts, but I really love them. Seizing the chance to have a master at home, he eagerly asked, could you teach me a few moves before you leave? My dream is to become a powerful martial artist known throughout the world. Jinbeek continued without hesitation. I want to travel the world and save people in danger like a true hero. Hearing that, Handong's face darkened as he growled, do you think being a martial artist is some kind of joke? The terrifying pressure left Jinbeek stunned once again. Handong stared at him with killing intent mixed with scrutiny. Jinbeek came to his senses and asked, what joke? Just then, a horrifying noise came from inside the house, making Jinbeek jump. Midden's desperate scream echoed. Grandpa, brother, Jinbeek immediately panicked. That's Midden. He instantly rushed toward the sound. What's happening? In the blink of an eye, he reached the door and shouted, Midden. Handong followed close behind, then froze at the scene before him. By the white-faced divine nun and her subordinates had captured Midden, she smiled wickedly. Handong, it's been a long time. Midden's mouth was tightly covered as tears filled her eyes. Brother. Seeing this, Jinbeek anxiously shouted, Midden. He cursed inwardly, damn it, who are these people? Without hesitation, he charged straight at them. Let Midden go. Suddenly, an assassin unleashed a long crimson slash. The attack flew straight toward Jinbeek. He froze in shock. Suddenly someone rushed over from behind, shouting, Jinbeak. Jin Chu shoved Jinbeak aside with all his strength, leaving him stunned. Jin Chu took the assassin's attack head-on, but the overwhelming force blasted him backward. Jinbeak cried out, Grandpa. Jin Chu painfully collapsed, clutching his chest. Jinbeak hurried over to support him. Grandpa, what's happening? Jin Chu's whole body trembled as he struggled to say, Jinbeak, run. Then he collapsed. Jinbeak froze. Grandpa. Handong, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. Listen to your grandfather, leave this to me. Jinbeak still hesitated, but Handong's expression turned grim as he emphasized, this isn't a battle for children. He concluded, you'll lose your life at any moment, making Jinbeak snap back to reality. Handong calmly stepped in front of them. By the white-faced divine nun, how did you find this place? She smiled with satisfaction. I followed Pai Sioja's trail. I never expected to find you here too. By the white-faced divine nun curiously asked, so you've met him, have you found the spirit jade? Handong frowned, his eyes filled with caution as he remained silent. She immediately pulled Midden closer and threatened, I knew you wouldn't talk so easily, so I'll give you a reason. By the white-faced divine nun pressed her sharp claws against Midden's neck. This child's life depends on your answer. Handong's face grew even darker. He answered firmly, let the girl go. This is between you and me. By the white-faced divine nun sneered arrogantly. I don't want to, if you want me to release her. She immediately slashed a long wound across Midden's back. Then answer me properly. Both Handong and Jinbeak were startled. Their eyes widened without a second thought. Jinbeak immediately charged forward. Midden. But Handong was one step faster, swinging his sword without hesitation. A dazzling sword arc stretched through the air as Handong slashed downward. The lightning-fast sword strike reached by the white-faced divine nun. She laughed excitedly. That's more like it. She instantly countered with a stream of white energy. The blue and white forces collided, creating a piercing blast. White smoke spread around by the white-faced divine nun as she praised him excitedly. Your strength really hasn't weakened, so this will be much easier. As the smoke slowly cleared, Handong had vanished. Face me head-on. She froze in surprise. What? Before she could react, Handong descended from above. By the white-faced divine nun hurriedly looked up. She quickly raised her arms to block Handong's strike, producing a brilliant flash that lit the sky. The assassins in the distance anxiously shouted, Divine Nun. By the white-faced divine nun immediately ordered, don't interfere, he's my prey. Witnessing the explosive clash, Jinbeak could only stand there with his mouth open. What is this? He couldn't believe his eyes. His eyes stayed fixed on them as they fought fiercely, trading attacks and defenses. Jinbeak was stunned. Can ordinary people really fight like this? One of by the white-faced divine nun's sharp claws was shattered by Handong's sword. Gritting his teeth, Handong attacked even more fiercely. Is this how Jucho deals with innocent people? By the white-faced divine nun sneered. I'll eliminate everything that stands in his way, including you. Handong frowned deeper as veins bulged across his forehead. He drew the sword from his back. Then he unleashed a mighty slash filled with undisguised hatred. The strike was so powerful it shattered by the white-faced divine nun's sharp claws into pieces. She stared at her broken claws in shock. Then she instantly leaped several meters away, using her internal energy. Rubbing her fingers, by the white-faced divine nun smiled faintly. I'd love to fight you one-on-one. By the white-faced divine nun snapped her fingers. A group of assassins immediately appeared behind her, but we don't have much time. More and more enemies gathered, putting Handong at a disadvantage. Handong glanced to the side. He saw Jinbeak panicking, not knowing how to treat Midden's wound. Midden, he thought, if this drags on, that child's life will be in danger. Raising his sword toward the sky, he gathered power into the blade and decided, I'll wipe them all out with a single strike. Handong stepped forward, preparing his counterattack. Then, he shifted into a fighting stance as countless lightning bolts erupted around him. Both by the white-faced divine nun and Jinbeak froze in shock. Everyone stood there with mouths agape. A massive lightning dragon appeared above Handong's head. Realizing what it was, by the white-faced divine nun shouted, he's preparing something, don't let him finish. Handong clenched his teeth, pouring every ounce of strength into the attack. The next second, he unleashed the devastating dragon blood slash, wiping out the assassins. The enormous lightning dragon charged directly at by the white-faced divine nun and her followers. By the white-faced divine nun stammered in panic, move, get out of the way. She immediately leaped aside to dodge the attack. The overwhelming power created a towering wave that slammed into the nearby cliff. It blasted out a massive crater that looked deep enough to pierce straight through. By the white-faced divine nun collapsed to the ground in a daze. She panted heavily, secretly relieved. That was far too close. By the white-faced divine nun turned to Handong and said, What a pity, that truly was an excellent technique. As soon as she finished speaking, the cliff above began cracking into huge sections. Small rocks rained down onto her. The next instant, massive boulders crashed down on by the white-faced divine nun. She cried out in panic, "What?" Then a tremendous explosion erupted. By the white-faced divine nun was buried beneath the collapsing rocks and debris. Watching from afar, Jinbeek was utterly stunned. No way. He frowned in disbelief. So this is. Handong was drenched in sweat after that attack. Jinbeek thought in amazement, true martial arts. Handong staggered unsteadily from exhaustion. Quickly gathering himself, he rushed over and urged, "Help the girl sit up." Jinbeek hurriedly replied, "Why yes." Together they helped Midden sit up. Handong used his energy to heal her wounds. Powerful energy flowed through Midden's body. After a while, her complexion improved noticeably. Jinbeek's eyes widened as he wondered, "Am I dreaming?" He frowned with determination. If this is true martial arts. Looking at Midden's blood-soaked back, Jinbeek felt a deep ache instead of admiration. He turned to look at Jin Chu lying motionless on the ground. Then he looked over the devastated battlefield, his heart heavy at its brutality. Suddenly Jin Chu coughed up blood. Trembling weakly, he called, "Midden, Midden." Jinbeek immediately asked anxiously, "Grandpa, are you all right?" Handong reassured him firmly, "Don't worry, I've already used my internal energy to expel the poison." Blood continued pouring out as Jin Chu weakly pleaded, "Please save Midden." Handong replied confidently, "One treatment is enough to pull her out of danger." Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed from afar, "That's true, but what will you do now?" By the white-faced divine nun painfully crawled out of the rubble, stood up, straightened her clothes, and praised him. "Your strength has grown a lot, Handong." She put on another clawed gauntlet and mocked, "But you're still as foolish as ever." Handong frowned and snorted with disgust. By the white-faced divine nun looked at the hands channeling his internal energy. "As you said, continuing the treatment will save the girl, but if you stop halfway, both of you will suffer internal energy deviation." She raised her hand again, gathering her internal energy to attack. "Did you really think that one strike could defeat me? You're underestimating me." Green poison dripped from by the white-faced divine nun's sharp claws. "You've changed since before, but so have I." Without another word, she rushed straight toward them. Though completely exhausted, Jin Chu still tried to get up and help. Suddenly, Jinbeek pulled out a gun. He fired directly at the charging by the white-faced divine nun. She stared in shock with her mouth wide open. In a flash, she knocked the bullet away with her bare hand and asked, "What is this?" Jinbeek was terrified but forced himself to stand firm. He raised the gun again, making by the white-faced divine nun frown in confusion. "You." Realizing what Jinbeek intended, Handong urgently shouted, "Stop, it's dangerous." Jinbeek loaded the gun again and pulled back the hammer. Trembling, he aimed the barrel straight ahead. By the white-faced divine nun laughed smugly. "That toy is useless." She waved her hand, sending 2 blasts of internal energy at him. "You think that can hit me?" Jinbeek hurriedly dodged to the side. One blast sliced across Jinbeek's waist, and blood poured out continuously. Dust and debris flew everywhere as a terrifying explosion erupted. Jin Chu cried out in pain, "Jinbeek." Jinbeek lay motionless beneath several huge rocks, his body covered in injuries. He struggled to stand up with great difficulty. "My body." He couldn't move, his face growing paler as he gritted his teeth in frustration. By the white-faced divine nun turned away in disdain toward Handong and Midden. "A fool who doesn't know his limits." Midden continued suffering in agony as Jinbeek cried out inwardly, "Midden." Jinbeek could only scream in his heart, "No." His trembling hand slowly reached toward the nearby gun. If this keeps up. Driven by sheer willpower, a brilliant energy emerged from Jinbeek's hand. Midden will be in danger. By the white-faced divine nun walked behind Handong and asked, "I'll ask one last time, Handong. Will you serve Prime Minister Jucho? If you obey, I'll wait until you've finished treating the girl." She dragged a claw across Handong's neck and threatened, "What's your decision?" Restrained by her, Handong remained silent. Then he sneered, "I'd rather die than serve him." Dissatisfied with his answer, by the white-faced divine nun grew furious. Veins bulged across her face as poison gathered in her hand again. "If death is what you want." By the white-faced divine nun raised her hand to strike Handong. "Then I'll grant your wish." Suddenly, a brilliant golden streak flashed across the air. The blinding light shone directly into her face. The energy came from Jinbeek, erupting into a massive beam that blasted everything around it apart. The dazzling light stunned both Handong and Jin Chu. Everything around them seemed to freeze. Gunsmoke drifted around Jinbeek. He stood there frozen in shock. His eyelids gradually grew heavy. Then he collapsed onto the ground. Staring at the shattered mountainside, by the white-faced divine nun exclaimed in shock, "You infused your internal energy into a monster-hunting gun. Damn it." She couldn't believe her eyes. "Your talent is truly unbelievable." By the white-faced divine nun stared at Jinbeek for a long moment, weighing the consequences. This boy is even more dangerous than I thought. If he lives, he'll become a threat to the Prime Minister. Suddenly, a ruthless thought crossed her mind. I'll eliminate the root of the problem. Just then, a voice called out from behind by the white-faced divine nun. Wait, she turned in confusion. What? Jin Chu's face was deathly pale, yet he forced himself to stand. He stepped forward and said, You said you're searching for the spirit jade, then come with me. Sweat streamed down Jin Chu's face as he declared, The 8th spirit jade isn't here. His words left both Handong and by the white-faced divine nun stunned. By the white-faced divine nun's eyes widened, her pupils shrinking in disbelief. The 8th spirit jade? Did you just mention the 8th spirit jade? Jin Chu calmly replied, That's right. She looked at him with contempt. How could an old man like you know about the 8th spirit jade? The corners of her lips slowly curled into a calculating smile. Making up stories to save your life is clever. I don't know how you learned about the 8th spirit jade, but it's not something an old man living in this poor place should know. Jin Chu's eyes darkened as the wrinkles on his forehead deepened. Jin Chu calmly asked, Do you know the Great Hyopsa Temple? By the white-faced divine nun frowned suspiciously. Are you talking about the sect wiped out by the demonic cult decades ago? Why bring it up now? Jin Chu calmly said, I am Jin Chu. He proudly patted his chest as the other two stared in shock. The only surviving member of the Great Hyopsa Temple. By the white-faced divine nun was stunned. Old man, don't talk nonsense. I heard no one survived the Hyopsa Temple. She thrust her palm toward him in a swift strike. Besides, the Great Hyopsa Temple was an undefeated sect in the martial world. You're clearly old, yet I can barely sense any sword aura from you. Blood still trickled from the corner of Jin Chu's mouth. Gritting his teeth, he pulled down his robe, revealing a muscular chest with a huge scar. My martial arts were crippled decades ago. By the white-faced divine nun froze as he continued. I swore never to involve myself in worldly affairs again. He explained that the 8th spirit jade relics forged by the legendary holy monks had long been studied by the Great Hyopsa Temple. They are miraculous treasures, possessing even one grant's terrifying power. The research records are called the 8 Gates True Scripture, passed down through generations. Clutching his chest in pain, Jin Chu broke out in heavy sweat. But the Great Hyopsa Temple was destroyed. I'm the only one who knows the 8 Gates True Scripture. By the white-faced divine nun froze, realizing he had seen through everything. So this really is connected to Jiacho. It seems you're trying to present the spirit jade to the Prime Minister of the Hyangzhou Kingdom. Blood stained Jin Chu's legs as he slowly stepped toward her. You've sent your men searching everywhere, yet you still haven't found the spirit jade. Jin Chu's deep, icy eyes reflected the calm of someone who had endured countless hardships. So what will you do? He offered a deal. If you don't harm my grandchildren, I'll lead you there. By the white-faced divine nun was startled. What? Jin Chu calmly persuaded her. Isn't that a good bargain? She muttered, this old man. Studying his serious expression, she thought, he knows far too much to be lying, and even on the verge of death, he still carries overwhelming presence. She smiled with satisfaction. It seems fortune is finally smiling on me. By the white-faced divine nun reached into her sleeve. It's a tempting offer, but I don't trust you. She suddenly pulled something out. Take this. It looked ominous. She explained, this is the black parasite pill. Without the antidote I regularly provide, the poison parasites will slowly devour your body until you die in agony. I still don't trust your words, and this is the quickest way. Jin Chu slowly closed his eyes. She warned, if I discover you've lied, both you and your grandchildren will die. Without hesitation, Jin Chu swallowed it. I hope you keep your word, she replied, don't worry. Beside them, Handong sat cross-legged behind Midden, placing both palms on her back as a warm stream of true energy slowly flowed out, forming faint lights around her body. He closed his eyes and poured all his internal energy into healing her. Damn it, pathetic. If I hadn't been careless, this wouldn't have happened. Jin Chu turned to him and sighed. You're Handong. I'm ashamed I told you to leave earlier. He pleaded sincerely, can you take care of these children for this old man? Please grant this old man's final request. Looking at the unconscious Jinbeek, he said, Jinbeek, Grandpa is sorry. Forgive this old man for hiding the truth. Even without me, you must grow strong. After walking together for a while, by the white-faced divine nun said to Jin Chu, what a pity. I was planning to settle things with you today. Her face remained calm. Heaven really loves playing tricks, doesn't it, Handong? Walking behind them, Handong remained completely silent. In the end, only by the white-faced divine nun and Jin Chu left while Handong stayed behind. She added, "Farewell, I'm sure we'll meet again someday." The eastern sky gradually brightened with soft shades of pink and orange as the gentle dawn wrapped everything in warm light, making the world feel peaceful and full of hope. Jinbeek's eyes suddenly flew open in shock. He cried out in fear, then saw Midden still breathing on the bed, while Handong let out a quiet sigh of relief. "Midden, thank goodness you're still alive." Handong sat silently beside the bed as Jinbeek stared at him in confusion. Handong turned and looked at him coldly, his trembling eyes filled with unease. Jinbeek's brows slowly furrowed and his lips trembled as if trying to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Dawn over the sea began with a faint pink glow along the horizon. The vast ocean reflected soft shades of orange, gold, and purple as Handong told Jinbeek everything Jin Chu had entrusted to him. Those were his final words, "Live well with your little sister." Jinbeek's face was filled with worry, his brows tightly furrowed. Deep sorrow filled his eyes as they trembled with restrained emotion. He asked, "Will my grandfather be safe?" Handong replied expressionlessly, "What Jucha wants is the power of the 8th spirit jade. Now that he has a lead, he won't harm your grandfather so easily." After fulfilling Jin Chu's request, Handong turned to leave, but Jinbeek pressed on. "But what if he gets what he wants?" Handong stood there silently, unable to answer. Jinbeek's relaxed hand slowly clenched into a fist. Suddenly, he dropped to his knees. Handong looked back at him as Jinbeek asked, "You're searching for the spirit jade too, aren't you?" Jinbeek looked up with pleading eyes, clinging to his last hope. "Please let me come with you. As long as we find Jucho, my grandfather can still be saved." Jinbeek recalled seeing Jin Chu beaten. "Today I finally learned what a real martial battle is. I couldn't do anything to protect my family." His hands trembled uncontrollably. "Because of me, Midden was badly hurt and Grandpa was taken away." Handong gently shook his head. "None of this is your fault." Jinbeek firmly replied, "No, it's my fault." Jinbeek's pale face was filled with pain, his red eyes glistening with tears as he pleaded. "If I were stronger, I could have saved Midden and my grandfather." He begged, "Please tell me how to become stronger. I'll do whatever you ask. Please teach me martial arts, I beg you." Handong lowered his head in thought. He reminded him, "As I said before, becoming a martial artist is no joke." In the fading evening light, he warned, "As you've seen, there are countless people stronger than them. You'll witness people dying every day, and one day you could be one of them." He asked once more, "Have you truly made up your mind?" Tears still streamed down Jinbeek's face, but his determination was unmistakable. Gritting his teeth, he declared, "If I can't protect my family, I'd rather die." Handong's face remained cold, but he silently accepted him. "From now on, call me Handong." Through the morning mist, the grand residence stood like a small fortress, with layered black-tiled roofs, dark red wooden pillars, and beautifully carved windows creating an ancient elegance. Jucho stood on the veranda waiting for something when a pigeon landed before him. A letter was tied to its leg. He took it and quietly read it. A sly smile spread across his lips, growing wider until it looked almost twisted. His eyes gleamed with unsettling excitement. The 8 Gates true scripture, so those so-called heroes were secretly researching the 8th spirit jade. By the white-faced divine nun has done well. A servant bowed respectfully and reported, "Prime Minister, His Majesty has safely arrived at the Southern Fragrance Hall." Jucho pictured the young emperor riding through flower-filled fields under the gentle evening light. The Southern Fragrance Hall is filled with blossoms. The warm south truly is the best place. He slowly spread his hand and smiled wickedly. It's the perfect place for a young king's life to end. An invisible aura spread from his body. The chilling killing intent froze the surrounding air. The scene shifted to a barren desert beneath a clear blue sky where the cracked earth stretched endlessly. Jinbeek dragged a boulder many times his size while Handong walked calmly ahead. Gritting his teeth, Jinbeek gripped the rope with both hands and strained to pull the boulder, moving it only inch by inch while carving long grooves into the ground. "Hey Handong, does it really have to be this extreme?" Handong answered firmly, "Yes." Jinbeek struggled with all his strength. "I'm about to pass out." Handong explained, "You have no special talent for martial arts, so steady training is what matters most." Jinbeek's shoulders trembled as tears streamed down his face, his lips bitten pale. Handong provoked him, "Didn't you say you wanted to become stronger? Damn it." Thinking of leaving his little sister with trusted friends, Jinbeek's determination grew stronger. "Fine, if that's how it is, I'll train until I die. I've already entrusted Midden to Beekbong's family, so I have nowhere left to return." Handong said, "First, we'll head to Anmun City. Senior Pai Seoja was planning to meet me in South Namha Province, so we'll follow that route. I don't know the full plan yet, but it's probably connected to Jucho." Jinbeek's whole body shook from overexertion as sweat flew off with every movement. Jucho, I've heard that name before. He's the prime minister, the man who truly holds power in the Hyunjo kingdom. Handong's face turned grim. He's also the one who poisoned the late king. Jinbik was stunned. What? Handong began telling Jucho's story. He wasn't always this cruel. He helped the late king rule wisely and maintain the prosperity of the Sura clan. Back then, I was also trained as a proud member of the Sura clan. A black jade radiating dark energy flashed through his mind. Then one day, Jucho obtained a mysterious jade from an unknown source. From that day on, Jucho completely changed and began using strange forbidden arts. His power surpassed everyone. After that, he sought to seize the world and eliminated those closest to the late king, including the Sura clan forces. Handong continued solemnly. In the end, the army was destroyed. Thinking back now, that jade was probably one of the 8 spirit jades Pai Seoja mentioned. He clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white. The young emperor is also in danger now. His life is like a candle in the wind. Frowning, he said, to change this, I'll gather the surviving Sura clan soldiers and restore the lost imperial authority to oppose Jucho. Jinbik poured all his strength into his arms and legs as his body trembled under the boulder's weight, each step leaving deep tracks in the ground. What imperial authority? What are you talking about? Fighting or whatever, just spare me. Handong coldly replied, 30 more lei. Jinbik stared in disbelief. What? Isn't that way too much for me? I'm still a beginner. Handong reminded him, didn't I tell you that consistent training is what matters? He glanced over and saw Jinbik pushing himself to the limit. I wanted to see how long he could endure, but it seems he still has strength left. Just like when he infused internal energy into that gun against by the white-faced divine nun, this boy is definitely no ordinary person. The clear blue sky stretched endlessly to the horizon without a single cloud, making the scenery feel vast, peaceful, and serene. Exhausted, Jinbik collapsed onto the sand as tears streamed down his face. His whole body trembled while he sobbed. I can't walk anymore, Handong calmly said. We're here. Still teary-eyed, Jinbik slowly raised his head. Before him was a bustling street filled with people, where footsteps, laughter, and conversations blended into a lively atmosphere. Jinbik beamed with joy. Awesome. A stranger leading a bull reached out to help him up. Ah, thank you. The man smiled kindly. Are you all right? Jinbik awkwardly nodded as Handong explained. Anmun City is famous for its many Western residents. Thanks to its unique political stability and strategic location, Jinbik interrupted. What kind of bull is that? Why is it so huge? Handong turned back and said, I know an inn here, so let's head there. Yu Pyo sat upright in a sedan chair, calm and dignified, his eyes fixed ahead. He carried the aura of a man of great status. The people lining the street quickly stepped aside and whispered, It's the city lord, the city lord. Yu Pyo waved with a warm smile to greet the townspeople. City lord, we're always grateful to you. Hello, everyone. Handong blocked Jinbik's view, making him curious. What's going on? It's so noisy. I'm starving. Let's eat already. A man lit a string of firecrackers right in front of the bull. The bull noticed the bright red firecrackers. As the flame reached the fuse, a rapid series of explosions erupted, filling the air with blazing red flashes. The explosions terrified the bull, throwing it into panic. Its owner cried out, What's wrong with you all of a sudden? The bull's violent struggle ripped the rope from its owner's hands. The crowd panicked. What's happening? The frightened bull charged forward uncontrollably, and directly ahead stood Yu Pyo's sedan chair. Oh no, it's charging at the city lord. Yu Pyo's eyes widened in horror as the people around him shouted, Lord Yu Pyo. A sturdy foot suddenly stepped forward and blocked the bull's path. Yijak stood before it despite its incredible speed. He circulated his internal energy, forming a brilliant spiraling light. A high-speed burst of blue energy shot forward, shaking the air and carving through the ground with overwhelming force. The bull's eyes met Yijak's. The surge of power instantly calmed the bull. The surrounding people all cheered with joy. Yijak stood proudly with a cold expression as the crowd shouted, It's Yijak. Lord Yijak stopped it. He coldly asked, Who's the owner of this bull? The owner stammered, I am. Yijak sternly said, How could you bring an animal into such a crowded place? The frightened owner bowed. I'm sorry. Watching everything, Jinbik gasped in admiration. Wow, that's amazing. Who's this Yijak? Was that martial arts too? But why wasn't the bull hurt? Handong watched Yijak chatting cheerfully with Yu Pyo and wondered, why is he so close to the city lord? The people around them excitedly praised him. Lord Yijak, as expected of Lord Yijak, so impressive. Yijak walked over to the sedan chair and asked with concern, City lord, are you all right? Yu Pyo smiled. I'm fine. His eyes narrowed warmly with joy. Thanks to you, I can patrol without worry. You're truly reliable, thank you. Yajak smiled faintly. You flatter me. The sedan chair continued along its planned route. Let's move. Handong silently watched with his usual calm, sharp gaze. Jinbik curiously asked, do you know him? Who is he? Handong tossed him a money pouch. Go to the inn first. Handong immediately dashed off after them. I'll be there later, Jinbik stammered. You. He stood frozen, clutching the money pouch with both hands, his eyes darting around in confusion. Hey, where are you going? What am I supposed to do alone? He opened the pouch and found it filled with shining coins. Jinbik's face lit up with delight. Well, being alone should be fine. So Jinbik entered a crowded restaurant filled with chatting diners. A waiter brought over a steaming plate of roasted chicken. Your food is here. Looking at it, Jinbik exclaimed, wow, that looks delicious. The moment he saw a chicken drumstick, he grabbed it and took a huge bite, stuffing his cheeks like a squirrel. I'm going to enjoy this. Inside the restaurant, Gong Qial emptied a cup of liquor in one gulp. He slammed the cup heavily onto the table. People at the next table looked at them in confusion. Hey, what are those two old men doing? The rich taste of the liquor left Gong Qial speechless for a moment. Across from him, Guai Myung was already tipsy. Another bottle. Gong Qial's cheeks were flushed as he laughed. You're about to lose, why not just admit defeat? Guai Myung frowned. You're the one who's losing, pour another cup. The surrounding diners whispered among themselves. How much have they drunk? Those two old men have been competing to see who can drink more for quite a while. While everyone wondered about the drinking contest, someone said, an ordinary person would have passed out by now. Who are those old men? Meanwhile, Jinbik had already emptied an entire jug, his face flushed red. Delicious, another chicken and 2 bottles of liquor. Nyung Yong quietly lifted the curtain and entered the restaurant. She chose the table right beside Gong Qial and Guai Myung. She called to the waiter 1 plate of steamed buns. Meanwhile, more orders rang out. 2 more bottles of liquor here, coming right up. More voices urged the staff. Innkeeper, another roast duck. Nyung Yong coldly repeated, my steamed buns. The flustered innkeeper replied right away. The long wait had clearly worn away her patience. 1 plate of steamed buns and 1 bottle of liquor. The innkeeper answered, yes. Just then, the wine cup in Guai Myung's hand suddenly slipped. It bounced off the table and spilled all the wine. Guai Myung stared at it in regret while Gong Qial laughed. Gong Qial finished the wine in his own cup. Setting the cup down, he laughed. You spilled your wine, so I win this match. 2 men at a nearby table watched with amused smiles. Guai Myung protested, that wasn't my fault. Someone suddenly shouted and startled me. Gong Qial reminded him, I always tell you not to be so jumpy. The result is settled, you lost. Bow to me 3 times as agreed and pay for my liquor for the next year. Guai Myung trembled with rage. Nyung Yong calmly sipped her liquor. Guai Myung suddenly stood up and pointed at her. You brat, how dare you ruin my drinking? Since you're here, just eat quietly and leave. Nyung Yong calmly set her cup down and sighed. Her face remained cold and expressionless. A monk wearing robes openly drinks liquor in broad daylight and even causes trouble. Guai Myung gritted his teeth in anger. What brat you? He roared, where did you learn to disrespect your elders? Are you looking for death? She sprang to her feet. What now? Don't tell me you're planning to kill someone. What do they call a monk like you? A fallen monk. His face turned purple with rage. The anger he had held back finally exploded as veins bulged across his forehead and his eyes burned red. You dare use that mouth to insult me? I'll rip it off. Guai Myung slammed his palm onto the table, producing a deep blast as the table shook violently. Brilliant light burst from the impact and spread like tiny bolts of lightning. Everyone present was terrified. What was that? Nyung Yong had already drawn her sword as the table shattered apart. Looking at him coldly, she said, you'll have to pay for that table too, old monk. Guai Myung chuckled, you're pretty capable for a brat in that case. The two immediately clashed. Try dodging this. Their weapons collided violently in midair. A brilliant flash erupted as countless golden sparks scattered everywhere. Their weapons crashed together again, sparks flying as both fought with everything they had in a fierce deadlock. Nyung Yong struggled to withstand his relentless attacks. The innkeeper clutched his head and cried, my tavern, what's wrong with that old man? Did he drink himself crazy? Gong Qial calmly ate with his chopsticks, enjoying the spectacle. That young one is impressive to hold his own against that old man. He channeled his internal energy into his chopsticks as blue light burst from them, forming mysterious spirals around his hand. In that case, after the intense exchange, Nyung Yong stepped back. Guai Myung sneered, what's wrong? Why'd you stop? You look tired. She replied, shut up. Suddenly, something shot toward her at incredible speed. Gong Qial's chopsticks flew like missiles. The entire tavern shook violently. They shot forward at terrifying speed, leaving long streaks of light that tore through the air. The tavern split cleanly in two. What happened? Guai Myung glanced over with annoyance. What are you doing? Gong Chiol smiled in satisfaction. I wanted to join the fun too. It's been a while since I stretched my body. Holding her sword, Noon Young grew uneasy. Damn it, both of them are masters. One would have been manageable, but two are impossible. She prepared to use her hidden weapon. Looks like this is my only option. Suddenly, a staggering figure appeared upstairs. Stop. It was Jinbeek. He shouted, 2 against 1 is disgraceful, especially against someone so small. His face was bright red from drinking as he slammed the railing and yelled, I, the great martial master Jinbeek, absolutely won't allow this. A threatening voice growled, you little brat. Jinbeek wobbled unsteadily. I'm a great martial master. I won't forgive you. The people below murmured, what's going on? Who's that drunk? His cheeks were flushed as he lay lazily across the railing with a foolish grin. Suddenly he lost his balance and fell straight down. Grimacing in pain, he rubbed his head as the fall seemed to sober him up. He couldn't remember what had just happened. Why did I fall down here? Guai Myung stepped in front of him. You've got some nerve, brat. Jinbeek scratched his head in confusion, completely lost. Guai Myung glared at him, gripping his staff. You dare challenge me? With overwhelming pressure, he threatened, are you ready? Jinbeek's eyes widened as he trembled. Jinbeek hurriedly protested, wait, what did I just do? He could clearly tell this man was a true master. Guai Myung roared, what? Jinbeek clenched his jaw tight, but his trembling hands and wavering eyes betrayed his growing fear. What do? I need to find a way out. He quickly glanced at the wine jars nearby and suddenly got an idea. That's it. Jinbeek stammered, how about a drinking contest? Guai Myung was stunned by the suggestion. Jinbeek grinned foolishly. Weren't you two having a drinking contest? Friends instead of fighting, why not settle it by drinking? Guai Myung frowned in annoyance. What kind of nonsense are you talking? Stop babbling and get up. Jinbeek eagerly held up his money pouch. If I lose, I'll give you every coin in here. Gong Chiol's eyes lit up at the sight of the money. Jinbeek added, but if I win, you must spare that young man and call me brother from now on. Jinbeek was sweating nervously when they immediately agreed. Fine. Gong Chiol warned, you've got guts, kid, but if you lose, I'll take your life. A challenge deserves a proper price. Cold sweat rolled down Jinbeek's face as he clenched his teeth, his body trembling and his pupils shrinking in fear. My life? Gong Chiol suddenly pointed at Noon Young. Of course, that one's life too. Guai Myung looked dissatisfied. Hey, what kind of ridiculous bet is that? Why did you agree to such madness? Gong Chiol smiled faintly, because it makes things more interesting. He confidently added, besides, we're obviously going to win. Or are you scared? Guai Myung was taken aback. What as if? Guai Myung shouted, bring me the strongest liquor in this inn, a whole jar. Since they've wrecked the place, they should pay the price. The innkeeper replied, right away, sir. Jinbeek cautiously stood up. Strong liquor? Could we use regular liquor instead? Gong Chiol calmly replied, with ordinary liquor, we still wouldn't have a winner after 3 days. Guai Myung slammed an hourglass onto the table. Smirking, he announced the rules. Whoever drinks more of the strong liquor before the hourglass runs out twice wins. Say one more word and I'll kill you on the spot. Under that overwhelming pressure, Jinbeek could only grit his teeth and endure it. Noon Young's expression darkened. How did things suddenly end up like this? Gong Chiol pointed at her and ordered, since this happened because of you, you'll be the referee. She stammered, why me? Guai Myung shouted, start already. Jinbeek hugged a huge jar of liquor. He thought to himself, at least this is better than fighting. Besides, they're already drunk, so maybe I still have a chance. He lifted the jar and started drinking. Fine, it's all or nothing now. Everyone in the tavern was bewildered. It's begun. That liquor kills with just 3 cups, yet they're gulping it down like water. Jinbeek widened his eyes and drank in huge gulps. His whole body trembled. No, this is too much. My throat feels like it's on fire. Gong Chiol smiled in satisfaction. Excellent, Guai Myung agreed. Now that's what real liquor tastes like. Jinbeek's vision gradually blurred. I'm done for, my head is spinning. His face turned pale green as his vision darkened and everything spun. His heart pounded wildly in his chest. Noon Young suddenly turned to look at Jinbeek. An invisible aura slowly spread from his body. She sensed it immediately. What is that aura? Gong Chiol also stopped and looked over. Surrounded by a powerful aura, Jinbeek calmly continued drinking. Gong Chiol said in surprise, Guai Myung, look at him. He's using internal energy to force the poison to the top of his head. Gong Chiol grew serious. This kid is no ordinary person. Guai Myung cursed angrily, damn brat. Jinbeek was focused on finishing his liquor when Guai Myung shouted, hey, brat. Guai Myung strode over to his table. You dare cheat by using internal energy to make drinking easier. Jinbeek ignored everything around him and kept drinking with all his strength. Gwai Myung gritted his teeth in anger. This brat. He slammed a hand onto Jinbeek's shoulder. Are you even listening to me? Jinbeek showed no reaction, but his body had grown burning hot. Gwai Myung's hand trembled, unable to affect him at all. He was too shocked to speak. Gong Cheol stared in disbelief. What's wrong with you? Gwai Myung stammered. My internal energy. He's absorbing my internal energy. Gong Cheol's face filled with horror. Could it be? A powerful aura burst from Jinbeek's body, the soul-absorbing art of the Seopa sect. Gong Cheol shouted, Gwai Myung, pull your hand back. Gwai Myung's hands trembled uncontrollably, unable to move as if glued by an invisible force. I can't. At this rate, all my internal energy will be drained. Gong Cheol urgently said, Gwai Myung, admit defeat. That's the only way. Gwai Myung panicked as well. Fine, I lose, I surrender, stop right now. Jinbeek's eyes suddenly widened. His internal energy erupted, unleashing a violent shockwave that shattered the ground. Gwai Myung was blasted away like a bullet fired from a barrel. He crashed into a wall as everyone in the tavern stared in shock. Noong Yong frowned. This guy, she wondered, who exactly is he? Jinbeek looked around in complete confusion. Innocently he asked, what just happened? Gong Cheol stammered in shock. Why you brat? Jumping to his feet, Gong Cheol pointed at him. You're one of the Seopa sect remnants, aren't you? Jinbeek blinked blankly. Seopa what? Gong Cheol declared, don't even think about denying it. Your soul-absorbing art is clearly the Seopa sect's forbidden technique. Jinbeek remained bewildered. What are you talking about? You've been saying strange things this whole time. Gong Cheol whispered, what should we do with him? Gwai Myung suggested, why not just kill him? With our strength, we can erase him without leaving a trace. Gong Cheol stopped him. No, if he's really from the Seopa sect, acting rashly will only make things worse. Besides, his companions might be hiding nearby. Finally, Gong Cheol admitted, fine, brat, I acknowledge your victory. As promised, we'll spare that young man, and from now on, Gwai Myung and I will call you brother. The two knelt before Jinbeek. Embarrassed, he said, no need. Calling me brother is a bit much. They replied then. Both of them instantly ran off in opposite directions. We've got business to attend to, farewell. Jinbeek stood there awkwardly. What's with them? I don't get it. They just abandoned the match halfway. He looked at his own hand in confusion. But why do I feel so strange? I drank so much poisonous liquor, yet I feel even better now. Why? Suddenly, something flew out of nowhere and struck him on the head. Staggering to his feet, he muttered, ow, my head, forget it, I'll just get some fresh air. Noong Yong silently watched him with an expressionless face. Under the evening sky, the streets were still bustling with people. Jinbeek walked wearily through the streets. Handong, where are you? You could have at least told me which way to go. Noong Yong quietly followed behind him and reached out to tap his shoulder. Hey. Suddenly, a passing street vendor bumped into her, making her lose her balance. The vendor hurriedly apologized. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. Noong Yong's body shook. Jinbeek suddenly turned around and said, oh, sorry about that. He noticed her doing push-ups close to the ground. Who is this? Suddenly, the strap of her hat came loose, and it fell to the ground. She stood there awkwardly, not knowing what to do. Oh no. Jinbeek walked over and froze. He hurriedly stepped back in shock. What? You're a girl, Noong Yong thought. Damn, it must have come off during the fight. Jinbeek stared in confusion. You're even the same age as me. What's going on? She glared at him. Hey, you. Jinbeek stammered. Me, she calmly replied. Yes, you used martial arts during the contest, didn't you? How did you do that? Jinbeek looked utterly confused. Me, martial arts? I don't know any martial arts. She frowned. What a blatant lie. Jinbeek scratched his head, looking completely sincere. I'm telling the truth, she thought to herself. He doesn't look like someone who's lying. Disappointed, Noong Yong turned to leave. She muttered, small and weak, yet always showing off. Who knows what kind of forbidden technique he used. She quietly clenched her fist in thought. Anyway, thanks for helping me. That's all I wanted to say. Jinbeek followed behind her, unsure what to say. She turned around and explained, even without you, I was about to finish him with my poison technique. Hyanga crawled onto her arm, making Jinbeek panic. What is that? She replied, this is my Hyanga. Once it bites someone, there's no cure. Jinbeek gasped. You carry a venomous snake. She held it out in front of him as it bared its fangs. Want to try? Jinbeek recoiled in fear. Keep it away. Noong Yong burst into laughter. I'm just kidding. Jinbeek shivered. What a strange woman. She waved goodbye. I'm leaving now, thanks. Jinbeek stood frozen for a few seconds. Wait, poison. He finally called out, hey, wait a second. He asked curiously, if you're skilled with poison, do you know the black three-ring poison? Noong Yong repeated, the black three-ring poison. She answered calmly, of course, it's made from silkworms fed on poisonous insects, which is why it's black, right? Jinbeek hesitated. Then, do you know the antidote? Jinbeek's eyes widened when she replied, I do. He hurried over, grabbed Noong Yong by the shoulders and pleaded, can you teach me, please? I desperately need that antidote. She looked surprised. If I have all the ingredients, I can make it. What's going on? Why do you need it? Jinbeek replied, I'll explain later, it's urgent. Can we gather the ingredients right now? She shook her head. The antidote for the black three-ring poison can't be made immediately. We still have to climb the mountain and gather the herbs. Jinbeek lit up. Really? Then let's go now. Just show me where and I'll gather them myself. She asked curiously, why are you in such a hurry? She explained, it's already too late to gather herbs today. Let's meet tomorrow morning. Jinbeek stood there blankly. Tomorrow morning? Noong Yong nodded. Yes, meet me at the mountain entrance behind the village. The evening sky glowed orange as they finished making plans. All right, I'll wait there. You have to come. I will. I have somewhere to be now. See you tomorrow. Jinbeek hurried away, leaving Noong Yong puzzled even though she still didn't know why he needed the antidote. Watching him leave, she thought, still, this is a good opportunity. I need to learn more about this guy. The clouds were no longer bright white but streaked with pink edges and gray-purple centers, drifting slowly as if melting into the evening sky. At a spacious residence, Yi-jack smiled with delight. Handong, it's been a long time. He warmly said, I was wondering how you've been. Come inside, let's talk. Handong cautiously observed everything around him. Some people were trimming the trees while others busily cleaned and carried supplies around the residence. Handong's gaze grew thoughtful. The two of them sat down at a tea table. Yi-jack gently rotated his teacup. Looking saddened, he said, I also heard about Pai Seoja. It's such a pity that someone so wise met such an end. He continued with concern. What do you plan to do now? I'll ask the city lord to appoint you captain of the guards. Handong's eyes darkened as anger flared within him. Yi-jack. He stood up and rebuked him. What are you doing here? Right now, our Sura clan comrades are being hunted down by Jucho's followers, yet you're here serving nobles and living in comfort. Anger blazed across Handong's face. Don't you feel ashamed? Yi-jack frowned but remained silent. He said quietly, the world has changed, and the emperor we served has already passed away. He looked at Handong seriously. We have to face reality. Yi-jack continued, Handong, we have to face reality. The current situation isn't something we can handle recklessly. We should choose what we can do, not only what we ought to do. Handong snorted, so your choice was to abandon the imperial court and become Yu Paio's hunting dog. That's your choice. Yi-jack slowly set his wine cup on the table. It's not as simple as you think. Handong looked toward the garden outside in surprise. He saw a beautifully dressed young woman standing with someone who looked like her attendant. Ryu Jiang raised her hand and greeted him with a bright smile. Yi-jack glanced at Handong. Could it be that you? He replied, that's right. Yi-jack had accepted a mission from the Sura clan to watch over Anmun City, disguising himself as one of its guards. One day, while patrolling outside the city, he found a sedan chair being chased by bandits. So Yi-jack stepped in and dealt with the bandits. After wiping them all out, he discovered the person inside the sedan chair was the city lord Yu Paio's daughter. Grateful, Yu Paio appointed him captain of the guards, and Yi-jack gladly accepted so he could watch Yu Paio more closely. But the longer he stayed, the more he realized Yu Paio was a man of integrity who genuinely cared for the people without discrimination. He even treated me exceptionally well. After learning I loved his daughter Ryu Jiang, he not only didn't object but even approved our marriage. Yi-jack set down his teacup again. Handong, this is what I think. Jucho may control Hyunjo Kingdom now, but if I become the city lord here, I'll be able to oppose him openly. It's a long-term plan. Handong fell silent after hearing this. Yi-jack continued, Handong, broaden your perspective. The few surviving Sura clan members can't defeat him. Handong clenched his teeth as veins bulged across his face. You really do have a talent for dressing up meaningless words. Yi-jack, the one who needs to broaden his perspective is you. While you wait to become city lord, our young emperor will be killed. How will you answer to him and our fallen comrades then? He hurled his teacup at Yi-jack, and it shattered against the wall. Handong continued, if you think the world moves according to your wishes, that's nothing but your own illusion. Yi-jack remained calm in the face of Handong's anger. Calm down, I have my own circumstances, by the way. Aren't you curious why Pai Seoja intended to come here? Handong asked, did he tell you something privately? Yi-jack replied, no, but I have a clue. You know Marshal Teek Wangang, Jucho's right-hand man, don't you? He's preparing to enter Anmun City from the outskirts. Handong was startled. What? Yi-jack nodded, that's right. He's coming to persuade Yu Paio to submit like the other city lords, and of course he'll apply pressure. Handong immediately fell into deep thought. He turned to leave, then I understand now, I'm going. Yi-jack quickly stopped him. Handong, wait. No matter what, if you move against Teek Wangang now, Anmun City will be in danger. Handong replied, but Jack declared firmly, as one of the city's guards I can't just stand by. Handong answered coldly, do as you wish, I'll act my own way. Jack fell silent under Handong's cold gaze. The scene shifted to the outskirts of Anmun City, where a soldier called out, Marshal, the meal is ready. Teak Wangang looked displeased. This meal, once we're inside the city, a feast awaits me. The soldier replied, then please enter the city at once. The troops have grown restless after camping here for 3 days. Teak Wangang answered, do you think I don't want to? But Miss Noong Yong suddenly disappeared, so we have to wait for her. Ever since she was little, she only cared about martial arts instead of studying, and now she's become completely unruly. Suddenly, Noong Yong's voice rang out, startling both of them. Unruly. Teak Wangang hurriedly replied, Miss, where have you been until now? Noong Yong answered, just sightseeing around the area. My ears were itching just now, you were talking behind my back, weren't you? Teak Wangang nervously replied, of course not. But even if Prime Minister Jucho, your father, allows you to travel, you should still preserve your dignity. Noong Yong coldly replied, can that worthless dignity save anyone's life? Teak Wangang immediately flattered her. Still, if you possess both supreme martial arts and elegant grace, you'll become the greatest queen in Hyangjo Kingdom. Noong Yong quickly warned, watch your words, calling someone queen is an act of treason. Teak Wangang replied, yes, miss. Noong Yong continued, if dignity matters that much, Marshal, you should spend more time practicing martial arts. Teak Wangang ordered the soldiers, now that Miss has returned, we'll enter Anmun City tomorrow. Send a letter to City Lord Yu Pyo immediately. The soldier replied, yes, sir. Noong Yong suddenly fell into thought. Tomorrow. She recalled Jinbeek's words, then let's go now, just tell me the place and I'll find it myself. A maid suddenly noticed the faint smile on her lips. Miss, what made you so happy? It's been a long time since I've seen you smile like that. Noong Yong lightly scolded her. Who's smiling? The scene shifted. Yu Pyo asked in surprise, a letter in the middle of the night. A servant replied, yes, a letter from Marshal Teak Wangang. Yu Pyo's expression turned strange as he read the letter. So he's finally here. I've been preparing for this day for a long time. Issue an order across the city and prepare the roads for their arrival. The servant replied, as you command. Yu Pyo stood by the window, thoughtfully gazing into the night sky. Handong watched Yu Pyo's room from the rooftop. He immediately turned away, as if he no longer cared. Then he leaped down from the roof. I understand Pai Sioja's intention now. He wanted to join forces with me to kill Teak Wangang and prove the Sura clan hasn't stood aside. I must succeed. I must seize this chance to declare to the world that the people of Hyangjo Kingdom have never surrendered. Jack followed behind, inspecting the city's preparations. They saw palace maids carrying jars of wine, while others hung up lanterns. Yu Pyo asked, the preparations are almost finished, right? Jack replied, yes. Suddenly, Jack noticed a figure in black watching them from a rooftop. The moment he turned to look, the shadow vanished instantly. Jack's expression grew thoughtful. He seemed to know who it was. The scene shifted to a procession of 12 people. 4 carrying the sedan chair, 3 in front and 3 behind beating drums and bells, while 2 guards escorted Teak Wangang into the city. A citizen asked, is that the Marshal of Hyangjo Kingdom? Another replied, it's my first time seeing such a high-ranking official from Hyangjo Kingdom. Teak Wangang looked around with contempt. Anmun City is fairly magnificent. Suddenly, a soldier rushed over in panic. Marshal. Teak Wangang replied indifferently, what is it? The soldier answered, sir, the matter is. Miss Noong Yong disappeared right after passing through the city gate. Teak Wangang was startled. What? Oh, that girl's. The scene shifted. Jinbeek kept walking. The path behind the village mountain should be this way, right? I'm so hungry. Oh, there she is. He suddenly spotted Noong Yong in disguise. Noong Yong quickly turned to look at him. Jinbeek paused, unable to believe his eyes. What, is she really the same person? Noong Yong asked, why are you staring at me? Jinbeek replied, oh no, you just look so different. Noong Yong shyly looked away. Don't get the wrong idea. I only changed into these troublesome clothes because of what's next. Let's hurry, gather the herbs for the antidote and head back. Jinbeek nodded. Okay. Noong Yong quietly glanced at him again, secretly pleased with Jinbeek's reaction. The scene shifted as a voice announced, Marshal Teak Wangang of Hyangjo Kingdom, welcome to your visit. Welcome. Yu Pyo respectfully bowed. It is an honor to receive you in Anmun City. Teak Wangang replied, greetings. As expected, Anmun City is prosperous, everywhere is magnificent. Yu Pyo smiled. It's all thanks to the people. Teak Wangang continued, but they can work in peace only because Hyangjo Kingdom has eliminated every danger around them. You know that. Yu Pyo smiled, indeed, please come inside. Teak Wengang replied, very well. Suddenly his eyes stopped among the servants. A pretty young maid caught his attention. Teak Wengang asked, what's that girl's name? Yu Pio answered, her name is Naeun. Teak Wengang replied, I see. In a few days when I leave, you'll come with me. Naeun was shocked. Yes. Teak Wengang declared, from now on you will serve me. Yu Pio quickly objected, but that child still has a family. Teak Wengang coldly replied, everything that belongs to Anmun City belongs to Hyonjo Kingdom. Distance changes nothing. Have you forgotten? While I'm on inspection, my orders carry the Emperor's authority. Yu Pio's expression instantly froze. Understood. Naeun cried out in panic, City Lord. Teak Wengang laughed loudly. As expected, City Lord Yu Pio is a wise man. I like that good judgment of yours. Now then, let's discuss the future of Hyonjo Kingdom. On the other side, Yi Jack bit his lip in anger. The scene shifted. Jinbeek asked, so what kind of herb are we picking? Noong Yong replied, this is the most basic herb for the antidote. Fill a whole basket with it around here. Jinbeek stared thoughtfully at the herb. Noong Yong asked, what's wrong? Jinbeek asked, hey, would that antidote work on someone poisoned by the poison weed technique? Noong Yong replied, if it's the same kind of poison, it might work. But why do you ask? Jinbeek exclaimed happily, really? Then I have to stop by Namha City first. Noong Yong was surprised. Namha City, do you live there? Jinbeek replied, yeah, I'm going there. I have to bring the antidote to Midden. She's kind and beautiful, but I couldn't protect her. Noong Yong suddenly felt irritated. What? Midden? Does he already have a girl he likes? Meanwhile, Jinbeek looked around excitedly. While I'm here, I'll pick some flowers to give Midden too. This is the herb, right? Noong Yong turned her head away. More or less, find the rest yourself. It's too crowded here, go look over there. Jinbeek looked surprised. What's wrong? Why are you suddenly so cold? Whatever, I'll gather the herbs first. I barely ate this morning, so I'm out of energy. He reached out and picked more herbs. Noong Yong thought to herself, a girl. He already has someone he likes, then I'm helping him for nothing. Suddenly, she noticed what Jinbeek had just put into his mouth. That's 3-ring herb. Noong Yong's face turned deathly pale with shock. Idiot, don't eat random plants, that's not a medicinal herb. She had no idea what to do because he had already swallowed it. Noong Yong grew worried. He just ate 3-ring herb, a deadly poison that makes your whole body feel like it's being torn apart by insects. Jinbeek replied, something feels strange, then swallowed the herb. Noong Yong anxiously watched his trembling reaction. This is bad, the poison's acting so fast. Jinbeek coughed, what's this? Wow, it's so bitter. I guess healthy things really are bitter. Noong Yong was suddenly speechless. What is going on? Did I see it wrong? No, that color was definitely 3-ring herb. Besides, those 2 old men leaving in such a hurry yesterday was suspicious too. Is this guy hiding his martial arts while pretending to be clueless? She decided to pull back her sleeve, revealing the snake around her wrist. I have to test him. Noong Yong decided I need to see whether he truly possesses immunity to all poisons. Besides, I've already prepared the antidote. She ordered the snake, Hyunga, bite that guy. The snake immediately slithered toward Jinbeek. It shot toward him while he was busy gathering herbs. Then it opened its mouth wide and lunged with deadly speed. Hyunga bit Jinbeek hard on the calf. Jinbeek jumped at the sight of the white snake. What was that? The snake quickly returned and hid beside Noong Yong. She asked, what's wrong? Jinbeek replied, something just bit my leg, ouch, that hurts. Noong Yong feigned innocence. Maybe it was just an insect. Jinbeek replied, it burns like crazy. It's definitely not an ordinary insect. Damn it, the grass is so thick I can't find it. Noong Yong couldn't believe her eyes. After a brief silence, she called out, hey. How do you feel? Jinbeek turned around in surprise. How do I feel? I'm fine, it just stings a little. Noong Yong was instantly overwhelmed with shock. He stayed perfectly fine after being bitten by Hyunga. Jinbeek looked around muttering, can't find it. Noong Yong wondered, what on earth is going on? Jinbeek suddenly spoke, I've finished gathering the herbs, is this enough? Noong Yong snapped back to reality. Jinbeek asked worriedly, what's wrong? Are you okay? Noong Yong replied, nothing. This guy is probably a much greater expert than I thought. I'd better be careful. I just remembered I left something behind. Wait here a moment, I'll go get it. Jinbeek asked in surprise, what is it? She replied, just something needed to prepare the antidote. Jinbeek nodded, I see, all right, hurry back then. Noong Yong replied, see you later. Then she disappeared into a cloud of smoke. Jinbeek thought to himself, see you later. Wait, did she just leave me here? She even used a smoke bomb. Do martial artists always disappear like that? Suddenly he felt drowsy and let out a yawn. Why am I suddenly so sleepy? I only woke up a little while ago. Jinbeek found he could no longer keep his eyes open. Whatever, I'll take a nap. She can wake me up when she comes back. The surroundings gradually fell silent, leaving only the rustling wind. Suddenly, a golden light radiated from Jinbeek's body. Brilliant streams of magical light continuously wrapped around him. The scene shifted to a group of people walking across the sandy ground. By the white-faced divine nun snapped, "Move faster. A little farther and we'll reach Hyunjo Kingdom." She suddenly glanced toward the back of the line. An old man with silver hair and beard looked up at her. By the white-faced divine nun said, "Hey, old man, when your grandson shot me with that gun. There's no way an ordinary hunting rifle could have such terrifying power. He clearly infused the bullet with an attack. What monstrous technique did you teach him?" Jinchu slowly fell farther behind the group. He raised his head and looked at the blue sky above. His eyes showed no emotion. So that child's seal has finally been broken. The scene shifted back to Jinbeek, who was still surrounded by streams of magical light. They gathered together, forming a glowing sphere around him. The image of a room gradually appeared in his mind. The room became clearer, with a fireplace in the center. He was lying on the floor, covered by a blanket. Jinbeek groaned in pain. "Grandpa. Grandpa, it hurts so much." Jinchu sat beside him in silence. He didn't know what decision to make in this situation. "I never wanted to use this." He took out a white stone. Jinbeek slowly opened his eyes and looked at him. He saw a brilliant sphere growing in his grandfather's hand. Jinchu said, "But I can't let my grandson suffer. I'm sorry. I only hope this power remains asleep until you're strong enough to control it." Then his figure gradually faded into nothingness. Back in the present, Jinbeek hurriedly called out, "Grandpa." He jolted awake and shouted, "Grandpa." His eyes widened as he looked around at his surroundings. What is this? What was that dream? The scene shifted inside Yu Pio's residence. Teak Wangang laughed loudly during the banquet. "Excellent, absolutely wonderful. I heard the city lord of Anmun lives very modestly, but judging by this lavish feast, that doesn't seem true." Yu Pio replied, "Treating honored guests well is basic courtesy. How could I not give it my all? Please raise your cup." Yijak silently watched them from the side. Yu Pio continued, "Tonight's dinner is nothing compared to tomorrow's banquet. I've invited nobles from all across Anmun City, so it will be even grander." Teak Wangang replied, "How magnificent. Then I assume the city lord also knows about my speech tomorrow." Yu Pio answered, "Of course." Teak Wangang continued, "Then you should make up your mind as soon as possible." Yu Pio paused slightly. "Make up my mind about what?" Teak Wangang suddenly slammed his teacup onto the table. The atmosphere between them instantly turned gloomy. Teak Wangang continued, "Don't pretend you don't know. Your oath of loyalty to Prime Minister Jacho." Yu Pio silently stared at him, his eyes narrowing coldly. A chilling silence settled between Teak Wangang and Yu Pio. Teak Wangang asked, "Why don't you answer? Are you still hesitating?" Yu Pio replied, "The current emperor is still too young to govern the nation. In these chaotic times, if foreign enemies invade, wouldn't that bring great disaster?" Teak Wangang shouted, "At a time like this, the city lords of Hyunjo Kingdom must stand united and not ruin the greater cause over personal feelings. Isn't that right?" Yijak beside him drank a cup of wine. Then he calmly set the cup back on the table. "For the people to swear loyalty to someone other than the emperor. Isn't that treason?" Teak Wangang froze at his question, and Yu Pio and the others were also shocked. Teak Wangang shouted, "You there, what did you just say?" Yu Pio quickly intervened. "Grand Commandant." Teak Wangang scolded, "How dare you speak such disrespect?" Yu Pio pleaded, "Please forgive him, my lord. I will discipline him myself." "Captain, apologize at once, hurry." Yijak remained silent at his command. "Forgive me," Teak Wangang snapped, "you ignorant brat. The crime of insulting the prime minister and defying the throne is no light offense." Yu Pio replied, "Our captain is inexperienced. I will discipline him strictly. Please show mercy." Teak Wangang answered, "Very well. I've suddenly lost my appetite, so I'll take my leave." Yu Pio anxiously called, "Grand Commandant." Teak Wangang angrily turned away. "I'm returning to my residence." Yu Pio hurried after him, "My lord Grand Commandant." The others also stood up. "I'll take my leave as well." Such a pleasant banquet ended like this. Still, such words should never have been spoken before the Grand Commandant. "I'll be leaving too." Yu Pio stood in silence as the banquet quickly came to an end. Yijak spoke, "I'm sorry, my lord, because of me." Yu Pio replied, "No, I was too hasty as well." "It's all right, go outside and continue your duties." Yijak answered, "Yes, understood." The scene shifted to Teak Wangang returning to his residence. He looked extremely irritated and furious. Handong hid on a rooftop, watching him and his attendants. Teak Wangang muttered, "I will never let this go. You'll pay dearly for insulting Lord Jacho." "Strengthen the security around the Grand Commandant's residence." The soldiers replied, "Yes, sir." The sky had turned completely dark. Soldiers carefully guarded Teak Wangang's residence. On the opposite rooftop, Handong silently observed. He quickly leaped down. Right in front of the residence gate, that man was waiting. A sword suddenly pressed against Handong's neck. He was startled to see Yi-Jack standing behind him. Yi-Jack ordered, "Come with me for now. If they discover us, it'll cause trouble." Handong paused slightly before replying, "You're right." A moment later, the two stood facing each other. Yi-Jack said, "Didn't I already tell you? As the captain of the guard, I can't ignore what you're doing." Handong replied, "There's no point arguing now." He gripped the hilt of his sword. "You do your duty, and I'll fulfill mine." Then he dashed forward. Yi-Jack immediately raised his sword to meet the attack. Handong gritted his teeth and slashed again at lightning speed. Yi-Jack's face remained emotionless as he kept attacking. The clash of metal rang out again and again. Handong glared at Yi-Jack with fury. He suddenly unleashed a powerful slash, sending Yi-Jack flying backward. Handong seized the opening and rushed in with his sword raised. Yi-Jack quickly blocked with the hilt of his sword. The two plunged into another fierce battle. A green flash suddenly burst between them. Yi-Jack and Handong both landed on the ground. They silently stared at each other for a moment. Yi-Jack suddenly said, "It seems we can't decide this unless we fight for real." A blue aura wrapped around his sword. Handong coldly replied, "Then so be it." Suddenly, rocks began falling near them. Handong immediately paused and became alert. They realized they were standing before a cave entrance. Yi-Jack also looked stunned in disbelief. Both of them instantly leaped away from where they stood. Hiding behind a roof, Yi-Jack muttered, "Why is there a cave behind the residence? Someone's coming out." He suddenly froze when he realized it was City Lord Yu-Pyo walking beside a woman. Yu-Pyo's face was cold and expressionless. Yi-Jack was shocked. "Why is the City Lord here?" Yu-Pyo suddenly looked toward the statue before the cave. He pressed a hidden switch behind it. The cave entrance immediately closed as if it had never existed. Yi-Jack instantly became suspicious and wary. The woman beside him asked, "Will this satisfy the Grand Commandant? What if he demands even more?" Yu-Pyo replied, "We'll just flatter him, but this alone could build several grand mansions." The lady murmured, "I plan to use this as Ryu Jiang's dowry." Yu-Pyo replied, "What, Ryu Jiang?" The lady answered, "Of course, who else would it be?" Yu-Pyo coldly said, "Who gave you permission to decide that on your own?" The lady's face immediately filled with fear. Yi-Jack also realized something was terribly wrong. "City Lord." Yu-Pyo continued, "I don't know how many times I've warned you, remember your place or else. Do you want me to turn your daughter into a servant?" Handong silently watched Yi-Jack's reaction. Yu-Pyo continued, "Stop your chatter. I must deliver it before Teak Wangang goes to bed." The lady fell silent for a moment before quickly replying, "Yes." Yi-Jack said nothing as he watched Yu-Pyo treat his wife like a servant. He lowered his head slightly, filled with confusion. Handong said, "So you followed that bastard all this time because you thought he was righteous? Even blindness has its limits." Yi-Jack's expression suddenly changed as he frowned. Then Yi-Jack dashed away. Handong shouted, "Yi-Jack." A moment later, Yi-Jack returned holding a torch. He and Handong entered the cave together. The cave was filled with treasures and silver. A cage imprisoning a man gradually came into view. Yi-Jack was shocked. "Impossible, why are you all here?" The scene shifted back inside Yu-Pyo's residence. Teak Wangang laughed loudly. "Wonderful, truly wonderful, just as expected of City Lord Yu-Pyo. Your generosity is remarkable, I've always trusted you." Yu-Pyo replied, "I'm honored that it pleases you." Teak Wangang suddenly said, "However, this still isn't enough." Yu-Pyo silently stared at him with cold eyes. "If you require more jewels," Teak Wangang replied, "No, I'm not talking about such trivial things but something far more important. Proof of your loyalty to Prime Minister Jacho." Yu-Pyo asked, "What proof?" Teak Wangang answered, "An old tale says that to prove an offering to the ruler was genuine, a man named Byon willingly cut off his own legs. You needn't go that far, but the thorn blocking the Prime Minister's path should be removed." Yu-Pyo asked thoughtfully, "You mean?" Teak Wangang replied, "As expected of the City Lord, you understood immediately. It's all for the greater good and lasting peace. Cut off Yi-Jack's hand to prove your loyalty." The scene shifted as heavy rain began to pour. Yi-Jack sat silently in his room, deep in thought. Ryu Jiang asked, "You still haven't gone to bed. Is something troubling you?" Yi-Jack slowly replied, "I can't speak of it yet." Ryu Jiang said, "I will become your wife, and husband and wife should hide nothing from each other." Yi-Jack narrowed his eyes without showing any emotion. He slowly raised the cup of wine in his hand. "City Lord Yu-Pyo has always treated me like his own son, and I've been deeply grateful for that. But today I saw his true face. It was more disgusting than I ever imagined, and I'm deeply disappointed." Ryu Jiang did not hesitate after hearing those words. "Everyone believes my father is a good man who cares for the nation and treats people kindly. But that's only his mask. The world knows City Lord Yu-Pyo as my father. In truth, he is the man who murdered my real father." Yi-Jack was stunned. "What? Him?" Ryu Jiang continued. He killed my father to seize my family's power. Yijak narrowed his eyes, his face filled with sorrow. Ryu Jiang continued, young master, I've never forgotten the horrifying scene I witnessed that day. If we share the same resolve, please stand with me against Yu Pio. I no longer want to ignore his crimes. The scene shifts to a crowded marketplace as Jinbeek sighs. That girl never came after all, and even brother Handong vanished without a trace. But why is it so crowded today? He overhears two townsfolk talking. I heard today's the Grand Marshal's banquet. That's right, all the important figures of Anmun City are gathering. Jinbeek wonders, a banquet, could brother Handong be there too? One townsman says, I heard they'll serve delicacies beyond imagination. Jinbeek thinks, delicacies. Suddenly a loud voice startles him. Make way. A grand palanquin surrounded by attendants passes by. Jinbeek wonders who could such a luxurious palanquin be for. He spots a familiar face inside. It's that girl. Jinbeek immediately shouts, hey, look here. Noong Yong instantly looks out the window. It's that fool. Jinbeek yells, stop. Noong Yong thinks it's that guy from yesterday. Damn it, I'll just pretend I don't know him. Suddenly she sees him fall to the ground. Noong Yong thinks, look how clumsy he is. I really misjudged him yesterday. A soldier shouts, how dare you approach the young lady? Noong Yong says, it's fine, I know him. Jinbeek asks, why did you leave first yesterday? I waited forever. She replies, sorry, something urgent came up so I couldn't tell you. I have to prepare for the banquet now. Jinbeek is surprised. You mean today's banquet? Are you a noble? Noong Yong replies, of course, couldn't you tell? I was already dressed like this yesterday. He suddenly recalls the fabric of the clothes she always wears. Looking again. A thought suddenly flashes through Jinbeek's mind. Wait, then. Can you take me with you? Noong Yong is stunned. Jinbeek continues, you left me alone yesterday, so consider this paying me back. She mutters, what kind of nonsense is that? Jinbeek puts on an innocent pleading face. Please. She replies, fine, I was wrong for running off yesterday and I do feel bad for making you wait. Alright, but stay quiet. Jinbeek excitedly replies, really, thank you. Noong Yong adds, and mind your manners, you must change into the clothes I give you. The scene shifts to the magnificent banquet hall. High-ranking officials smile as they flatter one another. Food is piled high on 3 huge stacked trays. Jinbeek stares at them excitedly. What are all these? Are these the famous delicacies? Noong Yong warns, you can't eat until the speeches are over. Be patient. Follow me first. I really misjudged him yesterday. No matter how I look at him, he's just an ignorant country bumpkin. But, she silently admits, he looks completely different in those clothes. Jinbeek suddenly asks, oh right, there's something I wanted to ask. What's your name? Noong Yong is surprised. He smiles, come to think of it, we've never asked each other's names. It'd be better if we knew them, right? Noong Yong thinks there's no need to tell him my real name, Noong Yong. I'm Noong Sion, Jinbeek happily replies. I see, I'm Jinbeek. It's a bit late, but I look forward to knowing you. Outside, soldiers stand guard with great vigilance. One of them looks thoughtful, as if waiting for the right moment. A voice announces, Lord Yu Pio has arrived. Yu Pio says, thank you all for coming. Today's banquet is held to welcome the honored guest of Anmun City. Without further delay, let me introduce Lord Teek Wangang, Grand Marshal of Hyangzhou. Teek Wangang enters under heavy guard with a satisfied expression. Jinbeek asks Noong Sion, who are those people wearing red masks? She replies, just bodyguards. The Grand Marshal has always been very timid. Teek Wangang said, welcome everyone. I came here to discuss the state of Hyangzhou. As you know, the young king who succeeded the late ruler is too ill to govern. So the throne is effectively leaderless, and Hyangzhou now faces a grave crisis. In these times, under the wise guidance of Chancellor Jiacho, we will rebuild the nation and restore peace. Therefore, I ask the Lord of Anmun City and all nobles here to swear loyalty to Chancellor Jiacho. The crowd murmurs, swear loyalty to Chancellor Jiacho, not the king. Yu Pio shows no reaction and silently watches him. Teek Wangang suddenly reveals a cunning smile. But first, we must eliminate those who reject the current court and plot rebellion. The officials exchange confused looks. What does he mean, rebellion? Handong narrows his eyes and stares at him. Teek Wangang continues, I never expected this, but the seeds of rebellion have already taken root here. Captain Red Sparrow, if you ignore a tiny spark, it will become an unstoppable blaze. So it must be crushed before it grows. At once a net is thrown over him. Handong reaches out toward his friend in shock. A worried voice shouts, Lord Yijak. Jinbeek cries out, what is this? Noong Yong also asks, what's going on? Yijak growls, you think a flimsy net can hold me. He forces himself up and swings his sword. Yijak suddenly realizes he cannot cut through the net. Teek Wangang shouts, now tie him up at once. Yijak is immediately bound tightly inside the net. Teek Wangang laughs, using your energy is useless. This is a steel lock net specially made to capture martial artists like you. Once trapped, your inner energy is sealed. Everyone, Lord Yu Pio has rendered a great service. even though this traitor was his right guardian and his daughter's future fiancé. The Lord uncovered his plot against the court and reported it to me at once. Is that not the finest example of loyalty to Hyunjo? Yijak is stunned by his accusations. You're lying, Yupio cuts him off. I'm deeply disappointed in you, Yijak. For your own ambition, you dared throw the realm into chaos. Last night my daughter confessed through tears. Lord Yijak never loved me, he only sought marriage to seize power. I once trusted you, but now I only shiver from your betrayal. Yijak grits his teeth and growls, Yupio. Teek Wengang declares, therefore, as a warning to all. Today I will publicly execute this traitor. Bring in the prisoner's punishment. The servants quickly wheel something in. A huge cauldron sits over a blazing fire in the middle of the hall. Jinbeek gasps, what is that? A giant cauldron. Yijak is immediately dragged toward the cauldron. A guard hauls him above the boiling oil cauldron. Yijak pants from the heat, furious at the betrayal. Teek Wengang declares, such a grave traitor deserves proper punishment. I will boil him alive as a warning. Now lower the rope. The rope above immediately descends at his command. Yijak watches himself being lowered closer to the boiling oil. Yupio silently watches Teek Wengang's satisfied expression. Yijak keeps struggling to break free from the net. No, he thinks as he falls. I can't die like this. Suddenly, a blue flash appears and the liquid in the cauldron suddenly overflows. Jinbeek and Noongyong stare in shock, while Teek Wengang's face darkens with displeasure. Everyone is startled as the liquid spills across the floor. Jinbeek recognizes the man who intervened. His face fills with utter shock. Brother Handong, blue energy still surrounds his hands. Only then does Teek Wengang realize an intruder has appeared. Handong slashes hard at the rope binding Yijak. Yijak watches anxiously as Handong struggles to cut it. Handong channels his inner energy to tear apart the net. His face is filled with focus as the net strands snap one by one. Teek Wengang grits his teeth and roars, seize that man. The surrounding soldiers rush forward at once. Obeying his order, they charge furiously at the two men. Yijak narrows his eyes and coldly glances at the man behind them. Yupio's face remains cold and expressionless. He frowns slightly and snorts at Yijak's gaze. Yijak takes a deep breath to steady himself. Then he calmly waits for the soldiers to attack. A spear thrusts straight at him, but Yijak swiftly dodges it. He immediately grabs the spear's long shaft. He forcefully shoves the soldier away. Yupio is shocked as the soldier is thrown back toward him. Yijak spins the spear in his hand. Then he suddenly stops and grips the weapon tightly. Yijak slams the spear into the ground, releasing a crushing burst of inner energy. It seems I have no choice but to fight. The soldiers immediately turn pale at the sight before them. Handong smiles, it's been a long time since I've seen your spear technique. Teek Wengang angrily shouts, you traitor. How dare you ignore me without even fighting back? A masked man suddenly says, now this is interesting. Another replies, looks like it's time for me to stretch a little. A group of soldiers surrounds Handong and Yijak. Get them. Teek Wengang roars, why are you all standing there? Attack. Hearing the order, the soldiers immediately charge at Handong. He quickly blocks their attacks. Then Handong slashes one soldier with his sword. He immediately rushes to block another attack from the side. Meanwhile, Yijak smashes his spear into one soldier's face. The soldier is instantly knocked backward and collapses. Handong coldly remarks, they're nothing but nameless foot soldiers. Teek Wengang cries out in panic, this can't be happening. Handong narrows his eyes and coldly stares at him. I'll use this chance to kill him in one strike. Suddenly, he senses someone behind him preparing to attack. Handong instantly turns around, but he's too late to dodge. He grits his teeth and frowns, realizing he's been hit. Who are you? The masked man replies. Where do you think you're going, friend? If you want to reach him, you'll have to get past me first. That's the proper order. Handong snaps, stop blocking my way and get lost. The masked man replies, I may look like this, but I take my job seriously. Handong falls silent, deep in thought, while the masked man also remains silent, hiding whatever lies behind his mask. Handong charges forward, raising his weapon at him. The masked man swings his sword, sending red waves of inner energy flying. As Handong blocks the attack, he realizes something is wrong. How can someone move like that? So he's a true master. Teek Wengang excitedly shouts, good, just cut off his head. Yupio remains silent, his face completely expressionless. He quietly walks behind a wall. Yijak immediately notices his suspicious movement. Yupio, he intends to chase after him, but a hand stops him. The other masked man says, I'll handle this one. Yijak only frowns at him, revealing nothing of his thoughts. Jinbeek exclaims, this is insane. How did the battle end up like this? Noongyong thinks Teek Wengang, no wonder he spent so much to hire professional martial artists. He planned this all along. Those two are formidable, but the red-masked men clearly have stronger power. Jinbeek gasps, what? Noongyong continues, if this drags on, they'll be at a disadvantage. They must have realized that already. Jinbeek anxiously says, "No way, Brother Handong." Noong Yong is startled. "Brother, you know him?" Jinbeek replies, "Yeah, he's my master." Noong Yong is shocked. "What, you call a rebel's accomplice your master?" Meanwhile, the masked man unleashes red arrow-shaped blasts of inner energy. Yijak calmly watches the incoming attacks. He quickly spins his spear to keep them from touching him. Suddenly, a red streak flashes past his face. Yijak instantly realizes something is wrong. The two masked men quickly land before him and Handong. One of them remarks, "You're better than I expected." Yijak says they're not easy opponents. Handong replies, "Yijak, let's fight together." He answers, "It's been a long time since we worked together, so I'm not sure." Handong mutters, "We have no other choice." "All right." Yijak raises his spear as a golden aura surrounds it, while Handong raises his sword as blue energy envelops the blade. Their golden and blue auras surge outward and merge together. One masked man comments, "Looks like you're about to try something." Yijak points his spear at them. Cloud boundary strike. A brilliant golden light erupts from the spearhead. At the same time, Handong shouts, "Dragon blood battle." One masked man scoffs, "So that's it, just flashy, useless techniques." The other says, "I dodged that with my eyes closed." However, the two attacks suddenly merge into one. They form a blue dragon wrapped in golden light. It charges straight at them and strikes. The masked man is stunned. The two techniques merged into one. Jinbeek is equally shocked, while Teek Wangang's face fills with panic. The blue and golden lights combine, flooding the entire hall. Moments later, the smoke clears, revealing a huge hole in the wall. Handong pants heavily in exhaustion while Yijak coughs. The two silently stare at the wreckage before them. Handong believes it's finally over. Suddenly, a red streak shoots into the air. It instantly flies down and pierces Handong. Yijak's face turns pale with shock, while Jinbeek is overcome with fear and worry. He shouts toward the fallen man, "Brother Handong." Yijak also frantically calls out, "Handong." A man's hand pushes the stone slab off his body. Gong Chial says, "Even my mask has been shattered. Because of you, our identities are exposed, and you'll pay dearly." Guai Myung also glares at them coldly as Handong coughs from the injury. Jinbeek suddenly recognizes the two familiar figures. "Wait, those two are." Gong Chial raises his sword. "Since you've seen my face, I should return the favor." Yijak quickly forces himself back up to keep fighting. Handong suddenly collapses as his body gives out from exhaustion. "Damn it, I've overused my inner energy." Handong grits his teeth unwillingly. "No." He looks at Gong Chial preparing to attack. "I can't die here." Suddenly, Jinbeek shouts, "Stop." Guai Myung looks at him in surprise. "Huh." Gong Chial also turns toward him in confusion as Jinbeek shouts, "Gong Chial, Guai Myung, you two disciples, stop right now and kneel to apologize to my master." Gong Chial and Guai Myung immediately look completely baffled. Jinbeek scolds, "Didn't you hear me? Kneel and apologize now." Handong is stunned to see him. "Jinbeek, why is he here?" Jinbeek continues, "Listen to your elder brother." Guai Myung mutters, "Have you lost your mind?" Gong Chial adds, "That guy looks familiar." Noong Yong has no idea what to do. "What is that idiot doing?" Gong Chial says, "Isn't he the guy we met at the tavern before?" "It really is him." Guai Myung suddenly charges forward. "I was hoping we'd meet again, so I could tear you to pieces." Jinbeek silently watches him. He recalls Handong's words. "Jinbeek, before we enter the village, I'll teach you a basic technique, just in case you get caught in trouble." Jinbeek immediately uses the technique he just learned and prepares to strike. Then he throws a powerful punch at the charging Guai Myung. He suddenly realizes something is wrong. The moment Jinbeek's fist strikes Guai Myung's guard, Jinbeek is shocked to find it has almost no effect. His face instantly fills with embarrassment and fear. Handong thinks, how could he master left step ice fist overnight? Guai Myung says, "What are you doing?" Jinbeek nervously stammers, "How didn't it work?" Guai Myung immediately forms a blazing red ring of inner energy that grabs Jinbeek by the neck. Guai Myung says, "I thought you were a disciple of the Siopa sect, but you're just a lucky fraud." Gong Chial warns Guai Myung, "That guy uses the absorbing energy art, be careful." He replies, "As long as he doesn't touch me, it's fine." Handong is startled by what they said. The absorbing energy art. Guai Myung growls, "That brat dared humiliate me. I will never forgive him." He rushes forward and kicks Jinbeek flying. Then Guai Myung reveals a set of bronze throwing darts. He hurls them one after another at Jinbeek. Suddenly, a sword with a blue blade blocks the attack. Though injured, Handong still steps in to protect him. "Brother Handong." Handong says, "I won't ask why you're here. First, get out of this place." Guai Myung chuckles, "Looks like you can still move. Good. Let's see how much longer you can hold on." Handong raises his sword again. His eyes suddenly glow bright blue. Handong repeatedly slashes apart the incoming attacks. Jinbeek anxiously cries, "Brother Handong." But he suddenly realizes someone has grabbed him and pulled him away. Noong Yong quickly grabs him and drags him aside. She finally sets him down in a corner away from the fighting. "Run, Jinbeek." Noong Yong orders, "This is your only chance." Jinbeek silently looks at her. Meanwhile, Handong grits his teeth as he faces Guimyong. The wounds on his body grow more severe. Jinbik quickly gets up. No, Noongyong argues, staying here is useless. If you don't want to die, run now. Jinbik suddenly interrupts, my life doesn't matter. Noongyong is stunned. What? Jinbik continues, brother Handong risked his life for my family. I can never abandon him and run. Noongyong is astonished by those words. Meanwhile, Handong is nearly collapsing. Guimyong remarks, what a pitiful sight. Now take my final attack. Suddenly, he turns in surprise after hearing someone call his name. Guimyong. Jinbik points at him and roars, take this. Left step ice fist, this time I must succeed. Jinbik charges at his enemy, shouting, left step ice fist. Guimyong sneers, that move again. A pathetic technique stays useless even after 100 tries. However, Jinbik's expression is completely different this time, and the technique no longer seems the same. Guimyong cannot help freezing at the sight of the attack. A powerful golden flash surges straight toward him. Guimyong's eyes remain wide with shock. He narrowly manages to dodge Jinbik's attack. That bastard failed just now, yet he pulled it off this time. He really is hiding something. Teek Wangang shouts, why are you hesitating? That brat is insignificant, finish him quickly. Suddenly Noongyong shouts commandingly, wait, lower your swords. Teek Wangang is startled to see her. Young lady. He is stunned by Noongyong's actions. The officials murmur, young lady. Teek Wangang called her young lady, then who is she? Noongyong says, my identity was personally guaranteed by Teek Wangang. The reason I'm here is because I witnessed you two swear to acknowledge this young man as your elder brother. If you insist on killing him, I'll expose your actions to the entire martial world. Your reputations will be ruined, and yours too, Teek Wangang. Hearing that, Teek Wangang's face suddenly turns pale. Noongyong continues, that's enough. Going any further would be excessive. Teek Wangang trembles, young lady. Guimyong says that girl must have a death wish. Gong Chial adds, she dares threaten us and thinks she'll walk away unharmed. Teek Wangang immediately scolds them, have you both lost your minds? That young lady is my master's daughter. The advance payment I gave you was to protect both me and her. Gong Chial is stunned. What? Teek Wangang takes a deep breath. Fine, our original objective has already been achieved. I've changed my mind, retreat. Escort me and the young lady out of Anmun City. Guimyong mutters, has that pig gone insane too? Why not kill her? Gong Chial interrupts, no, we've only received the advance, we still need the rest. Guimyong replies, fine, consider yourselves lucky today. Teek Wangang orders, escort me and the young lady safely out of Anmun City. Gong Chial cheerfully replies, yes, sir. Handong struggles to shout, you bastards, stop. But he suddenly realizes he can't move. Damn it, my body. Noongyong silently glances at Jinbik. He has collapsed on the floor, and she can't tell whether he's injured. She simply recalls his words, I must have the black triple ring antidote, tell me how to make it. Noongyong quietly closes her eyes and continues toward the exit. Handong grits his teeth, stands up and stares toward the door. That damn Teek Wangang, Yijak quickly stops him. Stop, Handong, your injuries are already severe. Handong snaps, let me go if we don't chase them now. Suddenly Yupio speaks, stop. His face is cold and completely expressionless. Yijak grits his teeth, Yupio. Yupio says, I understand your anger, but it was all for Anmun City. Yijak cuts him off, enough, you traitor, I'll kill you first. Yupio continues, to gain Teek Wangang's trust I had no choice, after earning his favor. I've been waiting for the chance to assassinate him. That shameless hypocrite Jucho is consuming Hyunjo. I couldn't stand by forever. I'm sorry for treating you that way, but I plan to have my soldiers destroy them before the execution. Yijak says nothing for a moment before speaking. Then, he slowly walks toward the door behind them. Yijak suddenly throws the door open before everyone at the banquet. How do you explain these people? Dozens of men walk inside. Handong is stunned to see them, and the gathered officials are equally shocked. Yupio's face, however, remains cold and expressionless. The crowd erupts. Isn't that General Chaeyoung who disappeared last year? And that's Master Yongsan, who was said to have wandered the martial world last year. Yijak says, when Chaeyoung suddenly disappeared, I had no idea what had happened. So you kidnapped the officials who opposed you and locked them in a secret prison. You even seized the property of innocent civilians. And a monster like you dares claim you wanted to kill Teek Wangang. Enough lies, Yupio, now face your punishment. The officials murmur, is what he said true? How could Lord Yupio do such a thing? One man roars, Yupio, you bastard. After all your crimes, you still deny them. You're no longer worthy of ruling Anmun City. The people beside him immediately point their swords at Yupio. You devil, they all charge straight at Yupio. Don't let him escape, capture him. Yupayo merely turns to look at them calmly. A head suddenly flies through the air as blood sprays everywhere. One official screams in terror. Everyone panics. What is this? What's happening? Yupayo says coldly with disdain, "You arrogant fools. I was willing to let it go, yet you insisted on bloodshed." Yupayo grips a soldier by the throat with one hand, his eyes sweeping over the sword-wielding troops while a headless corpse lies at his feet. The crowd immediately falls into chaos, stammering, "El Lord, City Lord," before breaking into frantic screams. Jack is equally stunned, and he and the soldiers exclaim, How is this possible?" With his brows tightly furrowed, Jinbeek lies sprawled on the floor, staring upward in utter confusion. Everyone wonders, What? Isn't that the city lord? Yupayo coldly declares, "You rebels, I'll send every one of you to the underworld." Handong frowns deeply, looking extremely troubled. He immediately leads the soldiers forward and shouts, "We outnumber him, don't be afraid, charge." Yupayo flings aside the soldier he was holding as the warriors surround him from every direction. Suddenly, Yupayo's hand glows with magical energy as he prepares to strike, then swings his arm. The magical energy shoots forward like a missile, shocking everyone. The generals and soldiers cannot react in time as the massive blast surges toward the entire unit like a barrage. Witnessing this, Jack can only stare in disbelief. How can his power be so overwhelming? Has Yupayo been secretly training? Handong grimaces, equally helpless. At the same time, he orders the archers to fire. Dozens of arrows instantly tear through the air toward Yupayo. Yet he remains completely unfazed, calmly gathering magical energy in both hands. These pitiful arrows can't even leave a scratch on me. As he finishes speaking, he repels them all with his magical energy. He sneers mockingly, "What adorable little tricks." A golden aura of magical energy suddenly flares behind Yupayo's shoulders, radiating tremendous power. As the magical energy rises into the air, he laughs. "Today, with my own hands, I'll wipe out every rebel and restore peace to Anmun City." A massive torrent of magical energy erupts like a tornado, crashing toward the squad before anyone can defend themselves. All they can do is cry out in agony. Unable to endure it any longer, Jack roars, "You bastard, even innocent people." Handong quickly stops him. Jack, it's too dangerous." The blast of magical energy slams directly into Handong. Jack panics and can only shout, "Handong." His leg is severely injured by the overwhelming magical energy, and Handong lets out a painful groan. Jack quickly carries Handong on his back and shouts, "Find cover." The magical energy keeps raining down as Yupayo laughs mockingly. "Ha ha ha, do you think hiding will save you?" Jack grows even more anxious. "Handong, are you all right?" Handong reassures him, "It's nothing, we have to stop him." Jack frowns, thinks for a moment, then says with difficulty, "Leave it to me." Handong asks in confusion, "What?" Jack replies, "I'll settle everything in Anmun City myself." Yupayo laughs wickedly, "None of you will leave here alive." Jack calls out, "Yupayo." He declares firmly, "I'll kill you with my own hands, so prepare yourself." Yupayo looks at him with contempt. Jack, my loyal subordinate, what a pity." He immediately strikes Jack with a powerful palm and mutters, "I'll have to finish you myself." Jack's eyes suddenly change as he narrows them in focus. With lightning fast movement, he swiftly dodges Yupayo's strike and leaps aside. He continues evading with a series of incredible zigzag movements. At last he thrusts his spear toward Yupayo. The spear seems to multiply into countless afterimages as they all strike at once. But with his sharp senses, Yupayo swiftly dodges every thrust. Yupayo clicks his tongue in annoyance. Suddenly, a violent surge of magical energy shatters the wall behind Jack, leaving him frozen. Jack's expression grows increasingly grim, worry filling his eyes. Yupayo snarls in fury, "You dare dirty my clothes." He tears off his robe, revealing a muscular torso, and roars, "Then prepare to pay the price." A brilliant golden jewel embedded in the center of his chest radiates dazzling light. Handong immediately realizes the truth. So that's it. Holding his wound and breathing heavily, he says, "That's the power of the 8-gate jewel." Yupayo proudly laughs, "Ho ho, that's right. This is one of the 8-gate jewels, the Tiger Command Jewel." As he channels his inner energy, he continues, "Simply carrying it makes you stronger than any martial master, so I implanted it directly into my body." As he speaks, he launches another attack at Jack. Like this. Jack takes the full force of the blow, barely managing to block it in shock. The magical energy is overwhelming, and Jack grits his teeth in pain as he resists. The blast completely shatters the weapon in his hands with unstoppable force. Jack is hurled backward by the terrifying inner energy, as if all his strength has been drained. He suddenly coughs up a mouthful of fresh blood. Handong shouts, Jack. Jack collapses to one knee, while Yupayo stands proudly before him. Jack seems to want to speak, but the pain makes every word difficult. Pyo flaunts his powerful physique and arrogantly declares, "It seems I'll have to cut off your head myself and send it to Teak Wangang." His veined hand gathers inner energy once more as he quietly says, "Don't worry too much." Raising his arm for the final strike, Pyo coldly adds, "I'll make sure my daughter Ryujiang hears it gently so she won't grieve too much." Jack can only watch helplessly while Handong shouts in despair, "No." At last, the palm strike comes crashing down on Jack. The magical energy stirs up a thick cloud of smoke, but when it clears, Pyo's face is filled with shock and disbelief. His eyes widen in astonishment. The person before him is someone else. That man blocked his attack. Who is this guy? Jack, still sitting on the ground, looks up in surprise. It's Jinbeek. Jinbeek's eyes are wide with confusion. He stares at his own hand and thinks, "I rushed in without thinking, but how do I have this kind of power?" Handong shouts, "Jinbeek, why did you interfere?" Jack agrees, "This isn't your fight." Jinbeek exclaims, "Why isn't it?" Jack replies, "This has nothing to do with you. Get out." But Jinbeek answers, "No. If you die, who'll teach me martial arts? You promised to make me strong." Handong falls silent after hearing those words. Jinbeek boldly continues, "I have to become a true martial artist, overcome every danger and save you, old man." Pyo repeats mockingly, "A martial artist who overcomes every danger." He launches another blast of inner energy and sneers, "What a foolish dream." Jinbeek is blasted backward as Pyo mocks him, "I've already seen your little tricks. They're nothing but cute techniques." Pyo immediately launches another attack, grinning smugly. "Even Jack couldn't do anything to me. What can someone like you possibly accomplish?" Meanwhile, Handong keeps warning his companions, while Jack's expression grows increasingly tense. Looking at the wreckage, Pyo sighs, "Where did this little brat crawl out from to waste my time?" Turning to Jack, he says, "Let's end this quickly, Jack." Suddenly, Jinbeek roars as his inner energy surges. It's not over yet. He immediately throws a powerful punch from behind Pyo. Pyo is briefly caught off guard and freezes for a moment, but he quickly raises both hands to block Jinbeek's attack. Though he blocks it, Pyo lets out a slight groan. Jinbeek smiles. "So, what do you think of my cute technique?" Yet deep down, he worries. "My left step-ice fist landed this time, so why is he still unharmed? Is it because I haven't trained enough, but I don't know any other techniques?" Pyo finally grows serious, gathering more inner energy as he sneers, "Ha, you're not as ordinary as I thought, then I'll treat you seriously." Another blast crashes toward Jinbeek as the magical energies of both men violently collide. Pyo grabs Jinbeek's energy-covered arm, and the two glare at each other in an intense standoff. Handong, sitting wounded nearby, is utterly bewildered. They're evenly matched, but how is that possible? Jinbeek only just started learning martial arts. Even Pyo's eyes reveal his astonishment. Could he really have enough potential to rival someone who possesses a spirit jewel? Pyo stares at Jinbeek in confusion while exchanging blows. At last, Jinbeek decides to unleash his strongest strike, channeling all of his inner energy. But after releasing it, he cries out in shock, "What?" He looks around but sees no one. Panting heavily, he scans his surroundings. Where did he go? Suddenly, a hand grabs Jinbeek by the throat before he can react. Pyo slams him to the ground and roars, "The more I look at you, the stranger you seem. How can a mere brat fight me?" Jinbeek struggles and trembles. Let me go." Pyo grows even more puzzled. "You're impossibly weak, could it be?" He leans close to Jinbeek and asks, "Do you also possess a spirit jewel?" "A spirit jewel?" Jinbeek asks in confusion. Pyo tightens his grip and continues, "That's it. It can only be the spirit jewel's power." Jinbeek protests, "What are you talking about? I've never even seen one." Pyo's eyes grow increasingly suspicious. "You're not carrying anything on the outside, so..." He suddenly strikes at Jinbeek and shouts, "It's inside your body. I'll cut you open and see what's in there." Jinbeek blocks his hand and angrily yells, "Are you insane?" But Pyo ignores him. "Stop talking nonsense and hand over the spirit jewel." Jinbeek nervously thinks, this guy has completely lost his mind. He desperately holds back Pyo's hand and tells himself, "No, I can't die like this." Pyo stares at Jinbeek in shock. What is this aura? His muscles tense as he wonders, could it be? He blurts out in disbelief, "The absorbing energy art. You're using the absorbing energy art." But then Pyo bursts into laughter. "Ha ha ha, ridiculous. I possess the spirit jewel and my inner energy is as vast as the sea." He presses down even harder. "Instead, you'll suffer energy deviation from absorbing so much inner energy." Jinbeek is in unbearable pain. "My whole body feels like it's about to explode. But I can't give up, think Jinbeek. My body's being torn apart." Pyo laughs triumphantly. Jinbeek struggles helplessly. "No." He furrows his brows tightly. "There has to be a way." Looking at the terrifying Pyo, he suddenly realizes, that's it. his inner energy comes from that spirit jewel. Yu Pio shouts excitedly, burst apart beneath my endless inner energy. Jinbeak answers firmly, the one who's going to die is you. As he says that, he reaches for the jewel embedded in Yu Pio's chest. Then Jinbeak violently rips the jewel out before Yu Pio's horrified eyes. Blood pours from Yu Pio's chest as he screams in agony and rage. My spirit jewel, no. He panics, I can't break free. Yu Pio screams while desperately staring at Jinbeak. Terror fills his mind. I've made a terrible mistake. I underestimated him. He's draining all my inner energy. Jinbeak struggles to maintain the absorbing energy art and draws out all of Yu Pio's power. A deafening explosion erupts as smoke and flames burst everywhere. Even Handong has to shield his face from the blast. Jinbeak lies unconscious on the ground with his eyes closed. The spirit jewel remains clutched in his hand, emitting thick smoke, seemingly the source of the explosion. Moments ago, Yu Pio looked unstoppable, but now, stripped of the jewel's power, he has become a dried-up skeleton. He bitterly mutters, damn it, the world was supposed to be mine. Blood gushes from his mouth and nose as his head slowly droops. At last, Yu Pio collapses beside Jinbeak. The surrounding soldiers exchange confused glances. They ask each other, is he dead? Then the soldiers all shout in shock, Lord Yu Pio is dead. A soldier looks at Yi Jack and calls out, Lord Yi Jack, are you alright? Handong finally realizes everything is over. He quickly rushes over, supports Jinbeak, and repeatedly calls his name. Looking at Jinbeak, he realizes the boy has lost consciousness. As he channels his inner energy, Handong thinks, this is dangerous. I'll have to force his energy channels open to wake him. He sends his inner energy into Jinbeak's body and immediately senses something strange. His expression turns grim. His inner energy is resisting mine. Has he already suffered energy deviation? Jinbeak's body shines intensely as he bites his lip in agony, looking as though he's resisting something terrifying. News of Yu Pio's death quickly spreads, shocking the people while all his cruel deeds are exposed. The citizens of Anmun City are stunned to learn his true nature. Unexpectedly, Yu Pio's daughter Ryujiang personally steps forward to calm the people. Thanks to her, the chaos in Anmun City is quickly brought under control. The scene shifts. Handong stands before a cave, deep in thought. At his feet lie several swords and mysterious handwritten journals. They appear to be medical records on treating severe injuries. Handong thinks it seems Yu Pio had been researching the Tiger Command Jewel. No matter what, Jinbeak is clearly connected to the 8 spirit jewels. An ordinary boy could never have fought someone wielding the Tiger Command Jewel. The scene shifts again to the afternoon, beside a tall traditional house. Handong opens the door. Inside, a physician is examining the person lying on the bed. He asks, how is he? The physician replies, his pulse is completely unstable. I've managed to stabilize him for now, but it's only temporary. My skills can do no more. Handong asks with difficulty, is there no other way? The physician stands up and says there's a renowned healer in Sancho City. He's called Master Guaniac. I don't know if he can save this boy, but finding him and giving him this is your only hope. Handong falls into deep thought once again. Looking toward the setting sun, Yi Jack is also lost in thought. His eyes are filled with worry as the breeze gently sways his hair. Standing behind him, Handong asks, Anmun City has fallen into this state. Are you all right? After a moment, Yi Jack replies, I'm only correcting my mistakes. Handong seems unconvinced. Is that so? He then says, Yi Jack, I'm leaving for Sancho City. I heard there's a divine physician there who can heal Jinbeak. Handong firmly declares, to defeat Jiacho, we need the power of the 8 spirit jewels. Jinbeak is clearly connected to them somehow. I must save him. Yi Jack remains thoughtful as Handong continues. That's all I came to tell you. I'm leaving now. Just as Handong turns to go, Yi Jack calls out, Handong, I'll go with you. Yi Jack continues, I still don't fully agree with you, but I want Ryu Jiang and the people of this land to live in peace. Handong smiles, all right. Handong takes out a white bundle and says, then I'll leave this with you. He continues, this is the spirit jewel that once belonged to Yu Pio. Keep it safe for me. Yi Jack looks at Handong and thinks for a moment. Then he reaches out and accepts it. Finally, he nods, very well, have a safe journey. The scene shifts to a man tightly bound inside a dark prison. A figure covered from head to toe prepares to dump a bucket of cold water over the prisoner. Splash, the old prisoner is drenched with icy water. It turns out the one splashing water is the white-faced divine nun. She shouts threateningly, still won't talk, want me to gouge out your eyes before you open your mouth. She angrily continues, "You wicked old man, can you really endure the agony of the black soul slash? Then I'll cut off your fingers one by one until you finally talk." Just then a voice says, "What a waste of time." Behind the white-faced divine nun, Chancellor Jucho appears. He smirks calmly. If he were that easy to break, he wouldn't have stayed in hiding all these years. Leaning close to the prisoner, Jin Chu, Jucho mocks, "I must admit, your will is impressive." He deliberately says, "I heard you have a grandson and granddaughter back in your hometown." Just as he expected, Jin Chu roars like a beast, "Didn't you promise not to harm children?" Jucho merely laughs. "If you want to protect them, then reveal the 8 gates scripture." He calls out Guang Bixia. The woman kneeling on the ground is Guang Bixia, his disciple. She replies loyally, "You called for me, Lord Jucho." He coldly orders, "Capture that old man's grandson and granddaughter." The white-faced divine nun stares in shock and hurriedly asks, "Chancellor, why not assign this to me?" Jucho calmly replies, "Weren't you the one who let those children escape, and you still expect me to trust you with it again?" Guang Bixia confidently answers, "Rest assured, Lord Jucho, I'll complete the mission flawlessly." Hearing that, Jucho calmly remarks, "Just as I expected, you're far more reliable than someone else," leaving the white-faced divine nun furious. Meanwhile, Yijak stands hand in hand with Ryu Jiang as she gently says, "Please stay safe, Lord Yijak." Yijak pouts slightly and asks, "Do you really need me to stay behind?" She replies, "Of course, I'm now the Lord of Anmun City. Even if we're apart, I won't change my mind. For the peace of Anmun City, I'll do my very best here." Hearing that, Yijak finally smiles, "I'm leaving." 3 days later, Jinbik is lying inside a horse carriage. The group has already set out. Along the way, Handong says, "Let's stop here for the night." Yijak nods. "All right." However, looking at the jewel in his hand, he falls into deep thought. Yijak quietly murmurs to himself. Holding the jewel in one hand, he channels inner energy with the other. Then he throws a powerful punch into a wooden frame. Looking at the shattered wood on the ground, Yijak marvels. "Even without using much inner energy, tremendous power fills my body." Handong is also surprised. The Tiger Command Jewel's ability to amplify strength is incredible. Handong continues, "According to Yu Paio's records, only by mastering the 8 gates divine art can one awaken the Spirit Jewel's true power." Yijak asks, "Isn't the 8 gates divine art just a legendary martial art?" Handong nods. "That's what I thought too, but..." Before he finishes, a voice suddenly calls from behind. "Hey." A whole group of mounted bandits charges over, shouting, "It's been ages since we found prey this good." They laugh among themselves. "There's even a carriage. They must be loaded with money. It's been forever since we found such a jackpot." Yet the 2 men remain completely calm. Yijak asks, "Bandits?" Handong replies, "Looks like it." One bandit charges in on horseback with his sword raised, laughing, "You bastards." The whole gang bursts into laughter and shouts, "Get on your knees and hand over everything if you want to keep your lives." Suddenly a scream echoes across the barren road. The bandits freeze in confusion at what just happened. The bandits collapse to the ground one after another. Handong simply remarks, "Trying to rob people in times like these, how foolish." One bandit warns, "Boss, these 2 aren't ordinary." Hearing that, the other bandits feel utterly humiliated and shout, "Do you think you'll get away with this? Lord Yu Paio backed us." Judging by the 2 men's disdainful expressions, they clearly aren't afraid. But Handong suddenly freezes when they mention that name and quickly asks, "Who did you say?" Thinking they'd frightened the 2 travelers, the bandits laugh proudly. "Who else? Lord Yu Paio, the Lord of Anmun City, ha ha ha." Scared now, the bandit leader shouts, "Get on your knees." But under Yijak's gaze, all that follows is a painful grunt. The bandit trembles in shock, pointing with a shaking finger. "Isn't that the jewel we offered Lord Yu Paio? Why is it in that man's hand?" Handong asks suspiciously, "What do you mean? You're the ones who gave this jewel to Yu Paio." The bandit sneers, "You think I'd tell you? Beg me first." But the moment he meets Handong's eyes, he freezes in place. He cries out weakly, "Damn it, why is this happening now?" The night sky is strangely peaceful, with only a few clouds above and a warm campfire glowing below. The 3 bandits now sit eating happily. "This is delicious. How long has it been since we ate grain?" One of them sighs in delight. "Boss, it melts in your mouth." They think Lord Yu Paio is dead and he was our biggest customer. Looking at Handong, one thinks, "I like honey, but there's something strange about that man's eyes." Handong asks, "Now tell me, what exactly happened between you and Lord Yu Paio?" The bandit leader laughs. "We're just wandering bandits who survive by robbing travelers. One day, we found a corpse that had decayed into a skeleton. Judging by the clothes, it looked like a monk. There were several valuable items in its bag. We planned to sell the jewel to a gem shop in Anmun City. But the shop owner secretly informed the city lord, Not long afterward, the city lord rode out to find us. We immediately begged for mercy. Lord Yu Pio, please spare us. He simply asked, where did you find this jewel? After the bandit asked, Yu Pio continued, was there anything else with this jewel? The bandit continues telling Handong's group, we gave him a tattered book cover, and he promised a huge reward if we found the missing pages. So ever since then, we've spent every day searching for paper until our backs nearly broke. Ha ha ha. Hearing this, Handong quickly asks, did the book cover have anything written on it? The bandit replies, we're illiterate, so we don't know. Handong immediately asks, do you still have those pages? The bandit hands him a bundle of crumpled papers. These are all the pieces we've collected. Looking at them, Handong thinks, 8-gate jewel, method of altering blood and energy. Isn't this part of the 8-gate scripture? After reading them, he asks, was there anything else on the corpse? The bandit replies, only the monk's robes. Handong quietly murmurs, Then to the bandit's surprise, he announces, all right, I'll pay you to keep collecting the pages. He continues, I'll come back from time to check on your progress. He thinks this may lead me to clues about the 8 gates divine art. Yijak and Handong continue their journey, looking around before asking together, is this Sancho City? Yijak looks around suspiciously. I don't see anyone who looks like a physician. Handong adds, I hope the rumors are true. They agree to rest first and gather information about Master Guaniac. The innkeeper cheerfully says, if you need anything, just call me. Yijak replies, all right. Jinbeek, lying on the bed, still doesn't look any better. He lets out a faint groan as Handong stays beside him caring for him. Both encourage him. Jinbeek, hang in there a little longer. Jinbeek weakly replies, I'm fine. Yijak kindly says, if you want anything to eat, just tell me and I'll get it for you. Jinbeek slowly parts his lips. It turns out he wants wine. The two men ask in surprise, wine. Jinbeek adds wine, meat, and a plate of dumplings. Handong and Yijak smile helplessly. Looks like he's going to be all right. Suddenly, loud screams echo from outside, interrupting their lighthearted conversation. Yijak and Handong step outside curiously. What's going on? It turns out a group of inn guests is making a scene at a large table, arrogantly shouting, does it really take this long to bring one bottle of wine? Hurry up. The innkeeper quickly apologizes. My deepest apologies, sir. The man in orange, Yang San shouts, you dare make us wait, want this inn shut down? Namak, sitting beside him, adds, if you don't want to die, hurry up. The innkeeper nervously replies, yes, I understand. Suddenly, a folding fan snaps open and a voice from behind says, stay calm and be patient. The speaker is Hyun Mayo. He chuckles and continues preaching his philosophy. All things have their time. When the moment arrives, everything will unfold naturally. Yang San snorts. I don't know what you're talking about, but what does it have to do with this? Namak agrees. HMPH learned a few words and now you act like a scholar. Namak glances to the side and suddenly notices something. Two elegant young ladies are quietly enjoying their meal. A lewd grin spreads across his face. Those two young ladies are quite beautiful. He walks over and starts flirting. Is that little bit of food enough for you, young ladies? His grin grows even more shameless. Come have a plate of dumplings with me. They answer only with silence. Undeterred, Namak keeps pestering them. Why won't you answer? I'll buy you something delicious. He fails to notice Ju grinding her teeth in anger. Seeing her sister about to act, Hwan softly says, sister. She gently reminds her not to make a move so casually. At that moment, someone comes downstairs. It's Yijak. He thinks to himself about those men. At the same time, Handong quickly grabs his sleeve and shouts, wait. He explains, if we act now, things will get complicated. If Jinbeek gets caught up in this, his life will be in danger. Yijak is furious but holds back. Handong then puts on a bamboo hat and calmly says, I'll settle this peacefully. Meanwhile, Namak becomes even more shameless, repeatedly pestering them. Answer me. So the young lady agrees, right? Hyun Mayo suddenly speaks up. Stop, bullying the weak isn't what a hero should do. But instead of being serious, he smiles brightly and jokes with the young lady carrying the sword. You must be a young heroine. Since fate brought us together, let me introduce myself. I'm Hyun Mayo. I enjoy studying martial arts. And how should I address you, young heroine? Ju clicks her tongue in annoyance. Then she stands up and says, we're in a hurry, so we'll take our leave. Hyun Mayo proves even more shameless than Namak and grabs her wrist. Where are you going? I haven't finished talking. One look at Ju's eyes is enough to know she's reached her limit. She shouts as she draws her wind blade, you dare toy with me. Just then, a man dressed in black steps forward from behind the two young ladies. There you are, I've been looking everywhere for you. Ju asks in surprise, who are you? The man in black is Handong in disguise. These young ladies are daughters of Lord Sama, a high official who once served in the Hyonjo kingdom. I'm the guard assigned to protect them. His eyes turn cold as he says, young ladies, please return. Your father is looking for you. Okay, Hwan quickly plays along. Why yes, that's right. Numak angrily shouts, what nonsense are you talking about? He argues loudly, you think I'll back down? I'm well known around here. Seeing Yang Sanxian's uneasy expression, Yang Sanxian quickly says, wait, Numak, just let them go. It's unwise to provoke people connected to the court. Besides, the person we're about to meet. Numak calms down and thinks it over. Then he turns away and grumbles, things were just getting interesting. Before he can finish, Handong quickly says, thank you. He adds, if you ever pass by Lord Sama's residence, please stop by. We'll be leaving now. Later, behind the edge of the forest, the two young ladies repeatedly thank him. Thank you for helping us. Thanks to you, we avoided unnecessary trouble. Handong politely replies, it was nothing. By the way, do you two live in Sancho City? They answer, yes. He continues, then do you know a physician named Master Guaniac? Okay, Hwan immediately asks, Master Guaniac. She points toward the mountain behind them. We only see him occasionally in the village and don't know where he lives, but people often say he's seen along that mountain path. Hearing that, Handong bows deeply. Thank you. We'll be on our way. Okay, Ju interrupts. You're leaving already? Let us treat you to a meal. Handong politely declines. There's no need. He turns to Yijak and says, let's go. Yijak reminds him, Handong, why the rush? Jinbeek's condition is poor. We should travel slowly. Handong replies, that's exactly why we have to move faster. If the rumor is true, we must find Master Guaniac as soon as possible. Meanwhile, near the Hyonjo kingdom, a loud voice calls out, Guang Biksa. It is the white-faced divine nun deliberately provoking her fellow disciple. She points at Guang Biksa and snarls, just because Chancellor Jucho summoned you lately, you've gotten full of yourself, don't get so carried away. Guang Biksa is no pushover either. She sneers, you're no different from me. Did you think this world would always belong to you? If you really wanted to, why not use that body to win Lord Jucho's favor? She finishes with another insult. Getting old has made things difficult for you, hasn't it? The white-faced divine nun's eyes turn bloodshot, as if she wants to tear Guang Biksa apart. She screams furiously, you damned bitch, and puts on her beast claw gauntlets. A powerful palm strike is launched straight at Guang Biksa, yet Guang Biksa remains completely calm. The white-faced divine nun stares in stunned disbelief. Guang Biksa instantly counterattacks and mocks, who exactly were you trying to hit? She casually slams the handle of her blade into the white-faced divine nun. The nun winces and lets out a muffled groan. Guang Biksa pins her to the ground, pressing her blade to her neck while mocking, you're this weak. No wonder Jucho despises you. She continues, if you really want to work, why not serve under me instead? The white-faced divine nun is stunned. What? Guang Biksa explains, I'm leaving for Sancho City. Find Jinbeek before I do. The sun climbs high, illuminating the mountains beneath the clear blue sky. Handong carries Jinbeek along a narrow mountain trail. This mountain is incredibly rugged. He gently reassures him, Jinbeek, hang in there a little longer, don't worry. Jinbeek quietly rests his head on Handong's shoulder. Seeing this, Yijak asks, Handong, it doesn't seem like Jinbeek is merely suffering from energy deviation. Do you know what's wrong with him? Handong replies uncertainly, I'm not sure either, but everything he's showing is clearly related to the spirit jewel. Isn't that just speculation? Why do you think so? Handong answers firmly, Jinbeek's grandfather was once a great monk who knew the contents of the 8 Gates scripture. He was captured by the white-faced divine nun and taken to Jucho. We must save Jinbeek and restore him before Jucho's reach extends this far. The outline of a simple thatched hut gradually appears before them. Yijak cautiously says, a hut this deep in the mountains. Could this be Master Guaniac's home? Handong steps forward and gently pushes the door open. Is anyone here? The hut is completely empty with only a few piles of straw in the corner. There isn't a single person inside and it seems abandoned. Jinbeek gently pats Handong's shoulder. I'll rest here for a while. All right. Handong carefully lays Jinbeek down on the straw and he lets out a painful groan. The two silently watch Jinbeek. Handong quietly asks Jinbeek, you're certain you've never learned martial arts? Yes, I wanted to, but my grandfather stopped me. Hearing that, Handong asks, then how did you obtain that power? Jinbeek falls silent before replying, when I fought the white-faced divine nun, I realized there was a strange power hidden inside me. The more he thinks about it, the more certain he becomes. The battle with Yu Pio proved it. I possess an extraordinary power. He lowers his head to look at his hand. I'm happy because I can feel that power growing stronger, but lately. His voice falters. I've been having nightmares of being swallowed by it. Jinbeek stares at the ceiling as his heartbeat quickens, his body turns cold and sweat soaks him. Now my fear is only growing stronger. Hearing that, Handong falls silent. He lowers his head as if he understands. That's because you've suffered energy deviation. He calmly says, I've heard Master Guaniac's medical skill is extraordinary. Let's put our hope in him. Jinbeek props himself up. Sorry for causing everyone trouble. It's all right. We'll go find some food and gather a few medicinal herbs. Their voices fade beyond the door. Get some rest. We'll be back soon. All right, be careful. Yijak glances at Handong. Jinbeek seems better than yesterday. I think so too. As they walk, Handong thinks, let's not waste time. Looking back, I once thought meeting Jinbeek was just fate. Memories flood his mind like a rising tide, but now it feels like destiny. Each vivid memory stirs deep emotions within him. The crimson sun paints the horizon as dusk slowly falls. Seeing the door creak open, Jinbeek calls, you two came back pretty late. Outside, the wind rustles through the trees. The lonely thatched hut feels even more desolate. Jinbeek is slightly startled. He quickly sits up and calls out, those footsteps, is that you too? He slowly opens the door and calls, Brother Handong, Brother Yijak. But all he sees is an old man staggering toward him from afar. The old man stumbles forward with unsteady steps. Jinbeek quickly runs over to support him. Grandpa. He gently shakes him. Grandpa, are you all right? What happened to you? The old man replies with difficulty, I was gathering herbs when a venomous snake bit me. I'm probably going to die. Jinbeek urgently says, Grandpa, let me help you. The old man's eyes begin to dim. Your concern alone means a lot, but it's an extremely deadly poison. You'll be in danger too. Jinbeek silently looks at him. He helps the old man sit down and gently opens his robe. Please lie still, Grandpa. Seeing the bite behind his shoulder turning purple, Jinbeek says, here it is. The old man warns, young man, don't, it's too dangerous. Jinbeek doesn't hesitate. I'm already dying from energy deviation. Maybe Master Guaniac could save me, but I probably won't last much longer. Saving one life is more meaningful. Hearing that, the old man's eyes flicker. Jinbeek quickly bends down and sucks the venom from the wound. After one mouthful, he spits out the poisoned blood. Grandpa, the poison has been removed. Suddenly, his entire body stiffens as a sharp pain pierces his heart. Jinbeek collapses to the ground. Oh no, young man. Jinbeek reassures him, it's not the poison. I've been like this lately. The old man's expression changes. Don't worry. He helps Jinbeek sit upright. Young man, let me examine your eyes. He notices signs of poison resistance. The old man takes Jinbeek's wrist and checks his pulse. Wait, your blood and energy, just as you said, you're suffering from energy deviation. Jinbeek looks up at him. Could you be Master Guaniac? No, I'm just an old herb gatherer. Guaniac conceals his identity and denies it. But trust me and follow the breathing method I teach. It'll help. You'll also need someone with strong inner energy to assist you by channeling it continuously for the first few days. He seriously instructs, now listen carefully and remember this. First, guide your energy from the middle cavity point to the 100 meetings point, then from the bubbling spring point to the gate of life point. From afar, Jinbeek sees the two brothers approaching. Brother Handong. He quickly turns to introduce the old man. These people are. But the old man has vanished without a trace. Handong walks over. Why did you come outside? Where's the old man? He was just here. Handong looks at him in confusion. What old man? There was no one with you. He even taught me how to stabilize my blood and energy. The middle cavity point, the 100 meetings point. Jinbeek is equally confused. What are you talking about? Was it just a hallucination? Handong helps him up and leads him back into the hut. You must have fallen asleep and dreamed. It's too cold out here. Jinbeek murmurs, how strange. Was it really a dream? The next day, they decide to leave the mountain. Handong leads the horse and asks, what now? Are you still planning to find Master Guaniac? It seems he's in Sancho City, so we'll have to stay there for a few days. He glances around and says, that's right, but first we need to find a place to stay. Suddenly, a loud shout interrupts them. Why are you still hesitating? Answer me. A fierce-looking man grabs someone by the collar. Have you seen a group of young men and women traveling with an old man over 60? And no, I really haven't. The man has no intention of letting him go. In a tiny mountain village like this, strangers stand out. Why would those troublemakers from the inn come here? We'd better stay out of sight. Numak shouts, think carefully, they must have come to this village. As if remembering something, he says loudly, oh right, those two are named Jinbeek and Midden. Hearing that, Handong immediately turns around and sees two more men behind Numak. Forget it, he doesn't look like he's lying. Then go search yourself. Hyun Myo ponders, I still don't understand why they're hunting those two children. Is there some special reason? and why search for people from Manhwa City here in Sancho City? The other man replies irritably, how should I know? The white-faced divine nun told us to come, so we came. Numak stamps his foot in frustration. Heroes like us taking orders from the court, they're paying us and promised a share of the reward, so stop complaining and keep searching. Yijak says worriedly, they just mentioned the white-faced divine nun. Handong quietly speculates, so the person they're meeting is the white-faced divine nun. Yijak steps forward and says, it looks like they're hunting Jinbeek. We should leave immediately. Handong quickly objects, if it's the white-faced divine nun, she's probably already surrounded this area. Rushing now will only draw attention. Yijak disagrees, but staying here isn't the answer either. A shout echoes from the distance. Hurry up, the performance is about to begin. A group of men comes running. I've waited so long for this day. Today I'll finally see Lady Yoon's performance. They urge each other on. People started lining up at dawn. Will there still be seats? Hurry. Handong narrows his eyes as he thinks. A huge crowd gathers beneath the stage. A voice announces, welcome, everyone. The graceful melody of wind and clouds and its beautiful pipa music are about to begin. Lady Yoon Binghua's magnificent pipa performance is about to start. The noisy crowd reaches Handong's ears. Hey, stop pushing, don't you know how to line up? Handong suddenly comes up with an idea. We should blend into the crowd. What? Handong explains, hiding among the people is the least suspicious option. An attendant smiles, thank you for coming, please wait a little longer, the performance will begin shortly. Meanwhile, Handong and Yijak quietly help Jinbeek enter through the side entrance. Yijak remarks, I never expected a place like this in such a remote mountain region. Looking at the excited faces around them, he can't help thinking, what a peaceful sight amid this chaotic world. These little joys must be a comfort to the people. They quietly avoid the crowd. We should reach backstage before the performance begins. There should be a place to hide there. Backstage, they find an empty room. Handong helps Jinbeek lie down. Jinbeek, you can rest here. Jinbeek lets out a painful groan, veins bulging across his face. Handong immediately realizes his condition has worsened again. He quickly helps Jinbeek sit up. Let me try the method that old man taught you. Handong closes his eyes and channels inner energy through Jinbeek's back. From the middle cavity point to the 100 meetings point, from the bubbling spring point to the gate of life point. He slowly raises his head to look. Suddenly, Jinbeek groans in pain. He grits his teeth tightly. Jinbeek endured a little longer. Gradually, Jinbeek's body calms down. Yijak rejoices. Jinbeek's complexion is improving. Maybe his dream wasn't meaningless. Outside, graceful white hands skillfully pluck a pipa. The stage lights illuminate an elegant figure. A breathtakingly beautiful woman plays the instrument masterfully. Hearing the music, Yijak says, looks like the performance has started. Handong pauses, this melody. Jinbeek sits quietly with a frown. Handong continues pouring inner energy into his body. Outside, the music plays on without stopping. Night slowly falls. Handong becomes more focused than ever. Jinbeek turns around. Brother, I feel much better now. Really. Hearing that, Handong stands up. Your method truly works. Until we find Master Guaniak, I'll help regulate your energy every day. Thank you, brother. Yijak looks at them. It seems the performance is over. Regulating energy took so long that it must have ended. Jinbeek says regretfully, what a shame, the music was so warm and wonderful. Yoon Binghua quietly heads backstage after finishing her performance. The surroundings are silent, with no one in sight. She pushes the door open and walks inside. Her eyes suddenly widen in surprise. 3 unfamiliar men are standing inside the room. Yoon Binghua exclaims, hey, who are you people? They all turn around in alarm. This is bad. Yijak hurriedly explains, we aren't suspicious people. We only came here temporarily because of an emergency. Yoon Binghua turns and shouts, okay Ju, there are intruders here. Seeing that, Yijak rushes forward. Miss, forgive my rudeness. I'll only seal your pressure points for a moment. But Yoon Binghua easily dodges. She turns and swings one hand. A powerful strike comes crashing down, but Yijak quickly evades it. Yoon Binghua frowns. You sneak in here and even dare attack me. Yijak quickly warns Handong. Be careful, Handong, she's no ordinary woman. Handong stops him. Enough, Yijak, let go. It's better to follow reason than keep offending her. He drops to one knee. Please forgive us for entering without permission. But we truly have an urgent matter. I sincerely ask for your understanding. Yoon Binghua remains unmoved. No matter how urgent it is, this is still my performance stage. Please leave immediately. A sudden cough makes her stop. Chen Bai steps forward from behind. I'm sorry, this is all because of me. Yoon Binghua looked at his miserable state. This kid seems to be in critical condition. OK Ju and OK Hwan hurried over. Sister, did you call for us? OK Ju froze. Handong was stunned as well. Huh, you too. The room fell silent. Yoon Binghua invited them to sit. So that's what happened. We had no idea you were our true benefactors. We were terribly disrespectful. She gave them no chance to refuse. A kindness must be repaid, though this place is humble. Please stay here for a while. Really. Handong and Yi Jack were moved by her generosity. Of course, my sister's debt is mine as well, so please stay as long as you wish. Several days passed as they recovered under Yoon Binghua's protection. Jinbeek and the others stayed at Yoon Binghua's performance hall, while Yi Jack helped with odd jobs. Handong searched everywhere for Mr. Guaniac but found no trace of him. Yoon Binghua sat in the courtyard playing the zither. Yi Jack and Handong sat nearby, busy with their own work. Yi Jack quietly looked at the string in his hand. Handong praised her sincerely. That melody was truly wonderful, thank you. He listened thoughtfully. It feels strangely familiar, stirring old memories. Did you compose it yourself, miss? Yoon Binghua couldn't hide her surprise. Her eyes shifted away. About that. Okju came running from afar. Hero Handong, you're here. She hurriedly announced, Mr. Guaniac has returned. I heard he's in the village now. Handong never expected things to go so smoothly. He quickly carried Jinbeek on his back and ran. He's at the entrance to the mountain path behind the village. If we leave now, we'll make it. When they arrived, the place was packed with people. Handong looked around in confusion. Where is he? He suddenly noticed a line of people waiting for an old man to check their pulse. Handong stepped forward. Excuse me, are you Elder Guaniac? The old man turned around. Who are you? These youngsters are all fellow cultivators. Hearing the familiar voice, Jinbeek looked up. Could you please examine this child? He was startled. Grandpa Herbalist has your snakebite fully healed. But the old man waved him off. What nonsense are you talking about? Have you mistaken me for someone else? Jinbeek was bewildered. How is that possible? The old man said, this child seems to be in critical condition. Follow me home first. They followed him to a small house. This is my home. Jack was puzzled. This is clearly the place, so why don't I remember seeing this house? He asked, Mr. Guaniac, we've passed by here before. Have you ever seen us? The old man denied it. I'm not Guaniac. What? Then he introduced himself. I am Guan. The door behind them suddenly creaked open. Another old man looking exactly like Guan walked out. I am Yak, the old herbalist. The two old men finally explained, only together are we called Guaniac. Guan stepped forward. Old Yak already told me your story, but he warned them, as you can see, his condition is extremely critical. It's sheer luck he survived this long. If the root cause isn't cured within a day, he will surely die. Handong refused to give up. Is there truly no other way? The two old men exchanged thoughtful glances. Guaniac suggested, leave the child with us, and we'll do everything we can to save him. Handong hesitated, unable to leave Jinbeek behind. Don't worry, this place is secluded and no one comes here. He reassured him, once we have a carriage, we'll personally send word. Jack and Handong looked at each other before agreeing. All right. As they left, Jack still doubted, can we really trust them? For now, this is our best option. Handong replied firmly, we have no choice but to trust them. Night fell and the place became lively once again. After cleaning up, Ju shouted, come on, hurry, the audience will be here soon. Handong asked, it's about to rain and you're still performing. My sister's shows are always packed. She quickly ordered, stop asking pointless questions and finish cleaning. Handong and Jack, go wash some clothes and come back. Their voices reached Yoon Binghua. Go already, hurry, stop pushing me. As the newcomers arrived, the stage suddenly seemed much brighter. The back door slowly creaked open, and three dark figures silently appeared. The white-faced divine nun Hyun Mayo sneered, so Numak is hiding in a place like this. That fool actually used his brain for once. Hwan hurried out to greet them. May I ask what brings you here? If you're here for the performance, please wait a moment. The woman grabbed Hwan by the collar. Then she threw Hwan to the ground. What is this? Hearing the commotion inside, Handong quickly turned back. What's going on? He rushed inside and saw who had arrived. Handong stopped in his tracks. They are. San Xian shouted, we heard someone's being hidden here. Bring that person out now. Everyone inside was bewildered. What? Hiding someone? What are you talking about? The white-faced divine nun grew impatient. Enough nonsense, wipe them out. The black-clad swordsmen obeyed and charged forward. One man swung his blade and Handong instantly gripped his sword hilt. No. Looks like I can't just stand by anymore. One subordinate was sent flying by a powerful kick. The other subordinate stared in shock. What? A woman drew her sword, her eyes razor-sharp. The other sisters immediately warned, stop, don't take another step. Even Hyun Mayo's group hadn't expected them to know martial arts. Those women are no ordinary people. Are they challenging us? Yoon Binghua drew her sword and declared, "A challenge? Intruders like you deserve nothing but punishment." The white-faced divine nun laughed mockingly. "Really, do you have the skill to back that up?" She raised her hand and ordered, "Everyone attack, show no mercy, kill them all." The women also charged forward, forming a sword formation. Both sides clashed in a tense battle. Even the black-clad men were startled. "What?" Yoon Binghua's side shouted, "Hold them back." The swordswomen decisively slashed at the black-clad attacker. Yijak and Handong watched from the corner. Just as expected, these women are no ordinary fighters. Let's observe the situation for now. Seeing this, San Xian charged forward. "These subordinates are useless. Looks like I, Yang San Xian, must act myself." The white-faced divine nun stopped him. "It's not your turn yet." She raised her hand and let out a sharp whistle. A loud blast rang out as a black-clad man dove down from above. He shot in from behind like a missile, slashing his blade in a flash. Several women were thrown backward. The white-faced divine nun laughed smugly. "So you've picked up a few tricks somewhere, but standing against us will only hasten your death." San Xian could no longer hold back. He pulled a spiked club from his back. "I'm itching for a fight." He charged forward and smashed his spiked club toward Yoon Binghua. She froze as the sword in her hand shattered. San Xian mocked her. "What the hell? What kind of toy is this?" Yoon Binghua narrowed her eyes. She stepped back, avoiding his deadly strike. Then she drew out a pipa. Yoon Binghua calmly sat down and began to play. San Xian couldn't believe his eyes. "What? You're still going to play music at a time like this?" Seeing this, Ju shouted, "Get ready." Yoon Binghua's melody echoed out, releasing a mysterious power. San Xian was instantly shocked. Then he collapsed in agony. My head." His subordinates also fell one after another. "My brain feels like it's about to explode." Hyun Mayo quickly covered her ears. "Cover your ears, it may already be too late." The white-faced divine nun gritted her teeth. "You worthless fools. A sound technique can be resisted by focusing your inner energy. Useless idiots." She personally charged forward. "The performance ends here." Yoon Binghua looked up at her. She drew a sword from beneath the instrument. A dazzling flash burst before the white-faced divine nun. Through the dust, she finally saw her opponent clearly. The sword in Yoon Binghua's hand gleamed. "The one who should stop is you." Handong was stunned. "That is." Looking at the jewel set in the sword's hilt, he confirmed it. 8 spirit jade. Through the crack in the door, Handong stared without blinking. How could that person possess the spirit jade? The white-faced divine nun charged fiercely. "Oh, you broke my technique, then see if you can stop this one." Yoon Binghua blocked the attack without hesitation. She gripped her sword hilt tightly. The white-faced divine nun refused to back down. She narrowed her eyes at her opponent. "What's this? His strength is far beyond ordinary." Yoon Binghua swung hard and sent her flying back. The white-faced divine nun quickly retreated. She gritted her teeth in anger. "Your skills are far more extraordinary than I expected." The white-faced divine nun frowned. All her followers had been completely subdued by the sound-based attack. This situation was turning unfavorable. Should she retreat for now? What should she do? A loud explosion burst from the ceiling, but Yoon Binghua swiftly dodged it. She turned around to look. "What is that?" A mocking voice rang out. "As expected, you're useless, white-faced divine nun." Gwang Beek Saw landed. "I gave you every chance, yet you still accomplished nothing. That's why you'll never improve." The white-faced divine nun ground her teeth in fury. "Beek Saw." Yoon Binghua raised her sword. "Whoever you are, don't get so worked up." Beek Saw spoke playfully. "Just tell me where Jinbeek is, and I'll leave at once. I don't want this to become a bloodbath." She remained on guard. "You dare barge into my performance hall and still act so shamelessly? Stop your nonsense and leave." Beek Saw narrowed her eyes slightly. It seemed words were useless now. She raised one finger and a flash of energy flickered. "If that's the case." Hundreds of threads shot from her fingertip and the black-clad figures suddenly rose under her control. "Then I'll have to use force to make you talk." Everyone around them stared in shock. They couldn't understand how those who had already fallen could stand up again. A sword pierced straight through one of the black-clad men, but something unexpected happened. Even with a sword through his body, he could still fight. The black-clad man seemed completely unharmed and pulled the sword out of his own body. A powerful force blasted him away. Beek Saw immediately turned around. Yijak gripped his spear and charged out. "This is bad, I can't just stand by any longer." Beek Saw smirked. "Oh, I was sitting on the beam." "So you're the rats from the Royal Investigation Bureau? Where is Jinbeek? Stop talking and fight." She instantly dashed behind Handong like lightning. How outrageous. Handong was caught completely off guard, since when had he was suddenly thrown backward. "Brother, you should watch your footing." At some point, a thread had tightly bound Handong's feet. Seeing that, Yijak shouted, "Handong." One of Yijak's arms was also bound just the same. "Damn it, when did this happen?" Handong sprang to his feet. "What kind of evil art did you use? I couldn't sense the slightest trace of energy." who knows? Baek Saw threatened, if you tell me where Jinbeek is, I'll consider telling you. Handong stubbornly refused. Get lost, you lapdog of Jacho. Baek Saw narrowed her eyes in disdain. Then there's no other choice, just sit there and watch your sisters die. The black-clad men charged forward like a storm. The women shouted, weapons won't stop them, run. Handong stood frozen in despair. No. Yoon Binghua gripped her sword, her eyes burning with rage. You beasts, I'll never forgive you. The heavy rain outside kept pouring. The white-faced divine nun suddenly sensed something was wrong. Damn it, if that bitch earns the credit this time. She turned toward Yoon Binghua. If I kill the one using the sound technique, the credit will surely be mine. With that thought, she immediately flew over. Die. Yoon Binghua closed her eyes and raised her sword. She poured all her strength into a forward slash. I told you, that little sword aura is useless. A beam of light shot toward the white-faced divine nun. A deafening blast threw the black-clad men below into panic. The ceiling burst apart, and rain poured inside like a flood. The white-faced divine nun sneered. You can't even aim anymore, looks like you've exhausted yourself, bitch. Yoon Binghua gathered power into both hands with her eyes closed. The people below stared in shock. A dazzling light surrounded them. Yoon Binghua gathered her strength and charged forward. White ice blossoms froze them all, leaving them completely unable to move. The white-faced divine nun asked in confusion, what are you doing? Okay, Hwan urged from behind, now's the time, use the lotus veil. Okay, Ju threw out a sphere. The sphere exploded. The black-clad men became like stone statues. Baek Saw looked at them and coughed, then smirked. You actually dared use the crippling curse. Handong was stunned. How could such a martial art even be performed? Could it be the spirit jade's power? Yoon Binghua approached and called, Sir Handong. He muttered, miss. She broke the technique and said, please come with me. Handong was shocked again. She broke through it that easily. Yoon Binghua added, we have a secret passage that only we know. The white-faced divine nun waved her hand and ordered, they've disappeared, search for them, they can't have gone far. Numak ran frantically while grumbling that this wouldn't have happened if they had fought together earlier. If I had stepped in, it would have been over instantly and Baek Saw wouldn't have needed to interfere. Yang San Xian retorted, you hid in the back while everyone else was frozen and now you talk big. Numak snapped, what did you say? Hyun Mayo glanced at them and shouted, enough, stop arguing and find them. The white-faced divine nun hurried away. She flung the door open, only to find the room completely empty. The white-faced divine nun gritted her teeth and turned away. Those damn cowardly rats. Her gaze suddenly stopped. Looking at the papers on the floor, she asked, what's that? The white-faced divine nun picked up several sheets and was stunned. Spirit Jade Core, blood flow, could this be the Eight Gates' true force? She frowned in confusion. How did they get this? Someone outside shouted, white-faced divine nun. The man reported, we've found the secret passage. They must have escaped through here. The white-faced divine nun put the papers away and urgently said, really? Then chase them. Meanwhile, on Baek Saw's side, she looked down from above and cursed, you fools, you couldn't even deal with one woman and ruined everything. That's exactly why you always fail. She leaped into the air. With skills this pathetic, you're no longer worth playing with. At a waterfall, Yoon Binghua looked out from the cave. Yi Jack said, so there's a place like this. Yoon Binghua replied, only we know about this place. She turned and said, thanks to that the others escaped safely. Please rest while I guard the entrance. Handong raised his hand. No need, let me guard it instead. Yoon Binghua firmly replied, this is the place I'm most confident defending. There's no need for you to worry. Handong said seriously, understood. He thought, I'm really worried about Jinbeek. That night Jinbeek had a nightmare. He jolted awake. Jinbeek sat up and asked where he was. Guan said beside him, you're finally awake. Jinbeek called out in surprise, Mr. Guaniac. He replied, I've thoroughly examined your condition. Jinbeek paused, remembering, right, you said you'd examine me. He asked, what was the result? Guan glanced at Jinbeek. He asked, have you practiced the energy absorption art of the Carefree sect? Jinbeek looked confused. Huh, what do you mean? Guan explained, your body contains many different types of internal energy tangled together. Other than the energy absorption art, there's no other explanation. He urged, tell me the truth. Jinbeek answered awkwardly, I've never learned that martial art. I haven't even mastered the basics of martial arts. Guan and Yak fell silent. Yak held Jinbeek's shoulder and smiled. Exactly. If you had truly mastered the energy absorption art, you wouldn't be this weak. Guan remained silent. He turned away and said, there is a way to treat your condition, but it won't be easy. You could very well die during the treatment, which is why I said that. Guan stressed, no matter which famous physician you seek, the answer will be the same. It's impossible to control those clashing internal energies with willpower alone, especially when your body is like an empty vessel that can't contain them. Even if you died this very moment, it wouldn't be surprising. Silence fell over the three of them. Jinbeek's lips trembled before he spoke. Then could you please give me the antidote so I can take it back to my grandfather? Gwan asked in confusion, what are you talking about? Jinbeek explained, my grandfather took the black hidden pill and was taken to Hyunjo Fortress. Before I die, I only wish to deliver the antidote to Brother Handong. So please give me the antidote. The two stared at him in shock again. How did he end up taking the black hidden pill, and where is Hyunjo Fortress? Jinbeek stammered. Well, he explained, I was captured by someone called the White-Faced Divine Nun. At that mountain peak, there was a man named Jacho. Jinbeek's fists trembled. Guaniak stepped before him and asked, did you just say Jacho? Water poured down the cliffside waterfall. Inside the cave, the three sat around a campfire. Handong gripped his knee tightly. This is bad after all. He turned with a serious expression. I have to leave first. Yoon Binghua looked at him in confusion. Where are you going? Handong glanced back and answered firmly, I'm going to find Jinbeek. He said, Yijak, I'm counting on you to protect the lady. Yijak nodded. You take care of yourself too. He watched Handong slowly walk out of the cave. The scene shifted to Jinbeek. He listened blankly as Guaniak asked, you said that man's name was Jacho, right? Jinbeek replied, yes, that's correct. Guan frowned and muttered, medicine alone isn't enough to suppress the internal energy inside Jinbeek and help him control it. Guaniak closed his eyes and added, indeed, perhaps this is fate. A hazy mist appeared behind them as both men said solemnly, we will pass on the supreme art that my brother and I spent years perfecting. Jinbeek widened his eyes in confusion. What? Why are you suddenly saying this, though there are other important reasons? One of them continued, making him frown in surprise. Above all, because our enemy is also Jacho. The two recalled their childhood. As twin brothers, we were fortunate enough to meet Master Taewa and join the Carefree sect. Under his guidance, we mastered not only martial arts, but also medicine and pharmacology. We were both exceptionally gifted. None of the other disciples could match us. Because of that, Master Taewa trusted us completely and taught us the Carefree sect's supreme art, the Northern Abyss divine art. We were overjoyed, yet one question remained. Why was the sect's supreme art passed to both of us instead of a single successor? One day, we accidentally discovered the truth. The Northern Abyss divine art is a martial art that one person alone can never perfect. After both twins master it, one must transfer all of his cultivated internal energy to the other, allowing the two immense energies to merge into perfect completion within a single body. Because it requires two perfectly compatible energy flows in one body, twins with matching meridians are the ideal practitioners of the Northern Abyss divine art. Even Master Taewa, the only one to master it and the Carefree sect leader, originally had a twin brother. Perhaps every sect leader before him was the same. Jinbeek asked seriously then, where did the other brother go? Guaniak frowned for a moment. Then he answered he willingly gave up his life. Jinbeek gasped, what? He said heavily, the Carefree sect is that ruthless. For generations, they preserved the Northern Abyss divine art by sacrificing one life. Guan added, neither of us wanted to become the successor because it meant one brother had to die. Remembering those painful days, one night we set fire to the granary to create chaos and escape. From then on, my brother and I wandered everywhere, hiding our identities to survive. Years after escaping, still longing for our sect, we decided to return and apologize to our master. But when we finally returned to the Carefree sect's mountain, Jacho had already wiped it out. Fortunately, we found one senior brother still remaining among the ruins. We cried out, senior brother. We tearfully embraced him. We've only just returned, please forgive us. He replied, seeing you before I die is enough for me. He never blamed us, only felt relieved. Sitting there, our senior patiently explained, Guan, Yak, your master never intended to sacrifice either of you. Guan stared blankly. What? He said, master planned to sacrifice himself instead, passing the Northern Abyss divine art to both of you. Both of us frowned in shock. Then we fell to our knees, trembling. Master Taewa had mastered the flow of energy so completely that he intended to transfer his own internal energy into us and perfect the art for both brothers. Returning to the present, the two regretfully told Jinbeek, after learning the truth, we deeply regretted everything we'd done, but by then it was far too late. Guaniak and Guan smiled at him. So we've been waiting for someone worthy. You possess both noble character and profound internal energy, so we want to pass this art to you. It's also the only way to save your life. Jinbeek looked stunned, already guessing part of it. The supreme art you mean is... a voice interrupted. It is the legacy of the carefree sect, our master's final wish and the life's work of us brothers. The two declared respectfully in unison, the Northern Abyss divine art. Jinbeek couldn't hide his astonishment. He silently listened as they continued. The energy absorption art can only steal another's internal energy. It can't truly make it your own. That's why someone like you, who absorbs internal energy without a proper vessel, will lose control and suffer energy deviation. Guan explained carefully. However, the Northern Abyss divine art can completely refine another person's internal energy into your own original power. After a while, Guaniac looked directly at him and asked, "Well, are you willing to cultivate the Northern Abyss divine art?" Jinbeek knelt upright, his eyes filled with resolve. This junior will definitely learn it. The two men smiled in satisfaction together. Excellent. The scene shifted to a gently flowing stream as someone said, "Where did the white-faced divine nun disappear after dumping all the troublesome work on us?" Yang Sanxian led the group. "How are we supposed to find them in these endless mountains?" Namak, walking behind, snapped, "Stop complaining, just follow orders." Hyun Mayo suddenly noticed something. That place looks suspicious. He turned toward the waterfall and said, "Wait, stop for a moment." Yang Sanxian looked back in confusion. A hand reached out and threw something behind the waterfall. Namak frowned. "What are you trying to do?" Hyun Mayo smiled sinisterly as 3 more throwing darts appeared in his hand. He hurled all 3 darts straight ahead. Yijak burst out from behind the waterfall and knocked the 3 darts away. The 3 men laughed mockingly. "Isn't this the man who suffered such a miserable defeat at the theater?" Yijak channeled his power into the spear in his hand. He charged furiously at the 3 men. "You'll find out right now." Yijak raised his spear and slashed downward. At that moment, the white-faced divine nun, standing nearby, was startled as the waterfall shot upward. She watched the explosion erupt in an instant. Then she exclaimed in surprise, "So this is the place." Meanwhile, the 3 men stared in shock as the waterfall split in 2 before them. Yijak stood there, his hatred erupting. "Thanks to you." Yijak fixed them with a cold stare. "I finally get to test the Tiger Command token's power." Yang Sanxian suddenly realized this man was no ordinary opponent. He gripped his weapon and charged, shouting, "Use the Gale Strike on him." Yijak also raised his spear, a direct assault. Yang Sanxian gritted his teeth and rushed forward recklessly. Hyunmayo quickly followed behind. Yijak frowned and leaped up to dodge Hyunmayo's attack. At that moment, Namak also jumped into the battle. Namak and Yang Sanxian charged at Yijak from both sides. Their attacks came crashing down on his head without mercy. Yijak steadied himself as he was forced backward. The 3 men sneered, "How's that? Our Gale Strike is impressive, isn't it?" Yang Sanxian excitedly rushed in to unleash another Gale Strike. Hyunmayo grew worried. "What, didn't you say this move couldn't be used twice?" Namak frowned and snapped, "Quit talking nonsense and just do it." As soon as he finished speaking, the 3 lined up and charged at Yijak with the Gale Strike. Yijak activated his own power at the same time. A massive explosion erupted, followed by screams. The 3 men sprawled across the water in terror. "He's too strong, that's why I said we couldn't use it a second time." Yijak calmly walked toward them and asked, "Have you prepared yourselves to die?" At that moment, a voice came from behind Yijak, surprising him. What profound internal energy. The white-faced divine nun stood atop the cliff and smiled. "The ability to increase one's power, is that the spirit jade's power you're carrying?" Yijak turned with a cold glare. "White-faced divine nun." She smiled with interest. "Hand over the spirit jade and for old time's sake I might just let you live." Yijak calmly replied, "I have nothing to give a traitor." The white-faced divine nun leaped down from the cliff. "Then I'll have to take it by force." Yijak gripped his spear tightly. "It won't be that easy." Yijak suddenly froze in pain as something spread through his body, while she lunged at him with a sinister grin. Yijak did everything he could to block her attack. He frowned and swung his arm. "What's happening? I can't gather my internal energy." The white-faced divine nun landed on the water proudly. "Even if the spirit jade boosts your power, it can't resist poison." Yijak stared angrily at his arm. "Could it be?" She replied calmly, "That's right. I already scattered demonic poison and energy-dispersing poison above the waterfall. I was worried the spirit jade might resist it. Luckily, it worked perfectly." The 3 men also trembled in pain. "Senior, why did you poison us too?" The white-faced divine nun watched Yijak collapse and slowly approached. "Now then." She reached toward his chest. "I'll be taking the spirit jade." At that critical moment, Yoon Binghua leaped from the cave with her sword. "Did you really think?" Her feet touched the water, instantly freezing it. "I'd let you have your way." Yoon Binghua leaped forward and charged straight at her. Her eyes narrowed as icy breath escaped her lips. The white-faced divine nun widened her eyes in shock. you brat. Yoon Binghua slashed, forcing her to leap backward. She stood behind the wall of ice and supported the suffering Yi Jack. The white-faced divine nun stared at the ice in disbelief, then watched the two flee. You can freeze an entire river. She reached out and unleashed her power. Even so, you won't escape. But she suddenly realized something and broke into a cold sweat. This is bad. From afar, Yoon Binghua swung another slash, freezing everything in its path. The white-faced divine nun desperately fled as the advancing ice chased after her. Her eyes widened in shock. The entire area before her froze into massive blocks of ice. A giant lotus bloomed from within the frozen field. She ended up pinned beside the enormous block of ice. The white-faced divine nun frowned and gritted her teeth as she looked at one frozen leg. She glared ahead in fury. Damn it. Meanwhile, Yi Jack trembled as he struggled to speak. You must stop the white-faced divine nun. Yoon Binghua frowned with concern. Please rest until the poison is completely gone. Yi Jack clenched his teeth against the pain. Damn it, Handong. The scene shifted elsewhere as footsteps stopped before an old house. Handong stood watching carefully, recalling Yi Jack's words. I'm counting on you to take care of Jinbi. He stopped before the house with a serious expression, stepped to the door and asked, Is anyone there? A man inside answered, Jinbi, is that you? Handong frowned, his gaze turning cold. Could it be? Suddenly, a ring of energy appeared behind him. Handong glanced back in shock. What's this terrifying energy? He turned and walked toward the source of the immense internal energy. Looking at the rock before him, Handong thought, could it be Jinbi? He placed a hand on it to sense the flow of internal energy and realized it was clearly coming from the other side. Standing outside, Handong shouted, Jinbi, are you in there? Just then, a voice from beside a tree caught his attention. Is Jinbi inside? Handong was surprised. Yi Jack, you're here too. Yi Jack smiled. Yes, I was worried, so I came. He stepped closer and asked, could that overwhelming internal energy really belong to Jinbi? Handong looked toward the rock. I'm not certain yet, but... His expression darkened. Where's the lady? Yi Jack replied, I don't know, wasn't she with you? Hearing that, Handong frowned and struck him with a blast of internal energy. Yi Jack leaped back to dodge. Handong stared coldly and demanded, who are you? Yi Jack's form vanished, revealing Baek Saw, who praised him. You saw through my illusion, not bad. Handong gripped his sword hilt tightly. Did you think I couldn't tell Yi Jack's aura from yours? Holding his sword, Handong calmly said, that little trick won't work on me. Baek Saw curled her lips into a smile. A little trick. She suddenly rushed forward before he could react. If you're calling something a trick, are you talking about this? Handong gritted his teeth and retreated, narrowly avoiding her strike. But Baek Saw appeared behind him and slashed his back, making him cough up blood. Handong leaped to the other side. He stared intently at her, then glanced at his back and saw a long claw mark. Standing atop a tree, Baek Saw laughed. Didn't you just say little tricks wouldn't work? This is called the Usura Claw. Holding a blade, she looked at him with amusement. You're not as impressive as the rumors claimed. Handong frowned and bit his lip. Damn it. Meanwhile, Guaniac and Guan were transferring their energy into Jinbi. Guaniac frowned and endured the pain. Do you feel it? Guan replied. I noticed it long ago. I don't know why, but this child's body. He continued, yes, it's a vessel capable of containing everything we're passing on. Together, they poured their energy into him. Master Tehua, the essence of the carefree sect that you wish to pass on. We now entrust it all to this young man. Their eyes turned pale as they pushed themselves to the limit. The immense surge of energy left them feeling fulfilled. We were born on the same day, drank the same mother's milk, and lived together all our lives. Now we'll become one and continue living within this boy. The two old men collapsed to the ground, while Jinbi struggled against the overwhelming power. His brows tightened as tears filled his eyes. Jinbi bit his lip and slowly opened his eyes. Outside, a brilliant light suddenly shone from within the rock as the battle continued. Handong glanced over, enduring the pain. What? His aura has changed. That chaotic, uncontrollable energy has become completely stable. Baek Saw was equally shocked. What's happening in there? The rock before them shattered apart. The flying fragments struck Baek Saw, making her cry out in pain. Jinbi slowly emerged with a radiant glow behind his back. Handong weakly turned to look behind him. The moment Jinbi stepped out, Handong collapsed to the ground. Baek Saw frowned and smiled. Jinbi. Jinbi looked at her with contempt as she asked, so you're Jinbi? Looking at Handong lying on the ground, she continued, don't you want to see your grandfather again? Jinbi ignored her meaningless words and attacked directly. Baek Saw frowned and retreated. Come on, let your big sister take you away. Jinbi appeared before her in the blink of an eye, making Baek Saw widen her eyes in shock. His strike came fast and she barely tilted her head to dodge. What? How can a mere brat move like this? He unleashed one technique after another, cornering her without escape. This brat, he's truly dangerous. Baek Saw snapped her fingers, taking control of Handong's mind. In that case, Handong stood up and blocked Jinbi's path, leaving him stunned. I'll have to use this move, a trick to stop you. She smiled as if victory was already hers. That's right, calm down. Handong obeyed and raised his sword before him. Jinbeek burned with rage as an overwhelming pressure gathered before his chest. The energy condensed into a massive sphere before him. Jinbeek clenched his fist and steadied himself. Standing behind Handong, Baek Saw smiled sinisterly. That's right, you wouldn't attack him, would you? The instant she finished speaking, a powerful force erupted. In a flash, Jinbeek appeared before Handong. He frowned as energy gathered in his palm. Then he struck Handong with a palm. Handong, I'll save you. Handong frowned in pain and coughed up blood. He collapsed and Jinbeek caught him on his shoulder. The thread on Baek Saw's hand snapped apart, making her frown. What's going on? Did he knock him unconscious? Jinbeek gently laid Handong on the ground. His furious gaze locked onto Baek Saw. Baek Saw transformed into Jin Chu, sweat running down her face. Jinbeek. Her expression suddenly became gentle. It's your grandfather. Jinbeek charged forward without hesitation and threw a mocking punch. Nice try, I won't fall for it. Baek Saw took the blow and staggered back, clutching her stomach. Even illusions don't work. Before she could react, Jinbeek appeared behind her, making her realize something was wrong. From above, he slammed down a palm strike without mercy. Jinbeek's face turned ice cold. Baek Saw frowned anxiously but still said, with this power, you're forcing me to use it. Lord Jucho ordered me to capture you alive. In an instant, the entire forest filled with countless copies of her. All the illusions rushed toward Jinbeek. But now I'll just have to take your corpse back. Jinbeek threw a punch at Baek Saw. She took the hit head-on, her face snapping to one side. Then her body slammed hard into the tree behind her. Baek Saw cried out in pain, unable to believe it. Impossible, even the clone technique doesn't work. She collapsed beneath the tree, leaving a deep crater in its trunk. Jinbeek also froze as the immense energy dispersed. After the energy faded, Jinbeek slumped forward. Moments later, he collapsed to the ground without moving. After a long while, the white-faced divine nun appeared. She reached into Baek Saw's robe, searching for something. Moments later, she pulled out the purple sphere, just as I thought. The white-faced divine nun smiled in satisfaction. So it really was the spirit jade's power. Baek Saw reached out, her whole body trembling. No, my spirit jade. The white-faced divine nun fixed her cold gaze on her. She grabbed Baek Saw by the throat. So you've been acting arrogant all this time just because Yu Pyo granted you a little of the spirit jade's power. She sneered, I've always hated that arrogant look on your face. This pitiful expression suits you much better, like a filthy insect. Farewell. As she spoke, her grip tightened. Baek Saw's eyes bulged in agony. The white-faced divine nun smiled with satisfaction at the result. Now next. Suddenly, shouts interrupted her thoughts. Jinbeek, Handong. From afar, Yijak and Yoon Binghua saw Jinbeek and Handong collapsed outside the cave. They rushed over, repeatedly calling out, Handong, Jinbeek, wake up. The white-faced divine nun watched the scene from afar with a smile. Even if it's only part of it, I've obtained the 8 Gates scripture and another spirit jade. From now on, I no longer need to obey Jucho. The scene shifted to night. The 4 of them stood around a large campfire. Handong, wrapped in bandages, sighed. So that's what happened. Looking ahead firmly, he said, Mr. Guaniac sacrificed himself to save your life. Jinbeek lowered his eyes sadly. They hoped I would defeat Jucho and avenge the carefree sect. Handong placed a hand on his shoulder. We owe them an immeasurable debt. Yijak looked at Yoon Binghua as she played the zither and asked, Miss, was your father's title Pyoja and his name Yoon Jipyong? She opened her eyes in surprise. How do you know that? He glanced at her. I often heard this melody while staying with Senior Jipyong. He said he composed it while longing for his wife and daughter. Yoon Binghua froze in shock. Handong looked at her and said, Your father was also a member of the Royal Investigation Bureau. Yoon Binghua asked, Do you know where my father is now? She froze when he answered, He was killed by the assassins Jucho sent. Yijak looked up. Yes, after my mother died when I was little, he never contacted us again. Yijak continued, then he suddenly returned, gave me this, and left again. Handong immediately recognized it as the spirit jade. The jade was now absorbing energy. I heard it's called the Ice Blossom Spirit Jade. This is the last keepsake your father left for you, Miss Yoon. Please treasure it. Yoon Binghua closed her eyes and replied, I will, and if you don't mind. She opened her eyes again, her gaze firm as steel. I want to avenge my father myself. Will you let me come with you? Handong and Yijak looked at each other. Handong, what do you think? Well, no one noticed Jinbeek standing before the blazing fire. His eyes blazed with determination and rage. Master Guaniac's kindness, I will repay it. The scene shifted to Mr. Guaniac's hut. Handong watched Jinbeek's hair flutter in the wind. As Jinbeek trained diligently, Handong instructed him. Although you've inherited the Northern Abyss divine art and can now control your internal energy, your external martial arts are still unrefined. If you want to use your martial arts freely, you must train relentlessly from now on. Swing your sword hundreds and thousands of times until you reach the perfect form. Jinbeek obediently replied, I understand. Handong explained further, you must feel the sword in your hand as though it's part of your own body. Jinbeek answered firmly. Seeing his dedication, Yi Jack and Yoon Binghua praised him. You're working very hard, Jinbeek. Even so, Handong humbly criticized him, leaving Jinbeek discouraged. Don't praise me, I started too late and my talent is still this poor. Yi Jack defended him, he's already working incredibly hard. Handong reminded him, think back to our training days in the Royal Investigation Bureau. If Senior Jipyong had been the one to teach Jinbeek. Realizing he had been rude, he apologized. I spoke out of turn, please forgive me, Miss Yoon. Yoon Binghua politely replied, it's all right, hearing stories about my father is something I've always wished for. She changed the subject, let's leave that aside. I heard some rumors when I stopped by the escort agency. The bandits occupying Blood Ghost Mountain have been rampaging. The nearby villagers and passing escorts have suffered terrible losses. The escort agency has repeatedly hired martial artists to eliminate them, but every attempt has failed. That mountain has completely fallen under their control. They're likely so powerful because their leader, known as Chingang Chasa, possesses astonishing martial arts, though his true identity remains unknown. After hearing this, Handong fell into thought. Suspicious, someone at that level must be a famous master. Yi Jack added, I'm wondering whether this man might possess a spirit jade. Handong seemed to agree, still, we need to confirm it. We should investigate in person. Elsewhere, beautiful yellow flowers bloomed across a green meadow. This was Namhyang Hall, where Chunrok was enjoying the scenery with his attendant. Noticing Chunrok's troubled expression, the attendant asked, Your Majesty, you seem deeply worried. Is something troubling you? Walking along the flower-filled path, he sighed. The former king died so suddenly and I'm powerless. How can I not be worried? I want to be alone for a while. At Chunrok's request, the attendant respectfully watched him walk away. The flower-covered path seemed to comfort the sorrowful figure walking through it. Chunrok walked on quietly. Suddenly, a troop of soldiers charged toward him to kill him. Chunrok noticed them and raised his eyes. Though alone against a fully armed force, he calmly asked, Were you sent by Jecho? Chunrok frowned and waited a moment. Then he told those who came to kill him, Go back and tell him this. He shouted, Even if I die, a man like him will never sit upon the throne. As soon as he finished speaking, a sword struck and took his life. Tears streamed down Chunrok's face in pain. The mysterious attackers watched him collapse. Having accomplished their mission, they quickly left as his attendant rushed over in panic. Your Majesty. Knowing he wouldn't survive, Chunrok could only murmur, Your Majesty, please protect your health for the sake of the kingdom. That was the Chunrok of the past. Now he simply sat quietly, watching the blazing fire. Gubyuk approached and spoke with him. I heard an assassin infiltrated Namhyang Hall. Chunrok replied indifferently, I see. He sank into gloomy thoughts again. I never even had the chance to sincerely thank him. She comforted him, protecting your Majesty was his greatest wish. Please don't grieve. Chunrok sighed in confusion. What should I do now? Gubyuk answered, You must find people who can help you. Although Jecho controls the court, his influence hasn't spread to every corner of Hyunjo. Gather the former ministers who remained loyal to the former king and restore the kingdom. Yet Chunrok remained pessimistic. While father was alive, he always praised Jecho's loyalty. If someone so loyal could betray overnight, do you really think the other ministers would be any different? She advised him, please seek out the Royal Investigation Bureau. Only they can become your Majesty's greatest support. Chunrok asked, wasn't the Royal Investigation Bureau completely wiped out? Gubyuk replied, that's what the world believes. However, I don't believe every single member died. Some survivors must still be sharpening their blades in secret for revenge. Elsewhere, Yi Jack and Handong silently looked ahead. Before the four of them stood a prosperous village. Is this Blood Ghost Mountain? The village bustled with a few people. Yi Jack, Handong, Yoon Binghua, and Jinbeek walked inside, and Jinbeek found it strange. There wasn't a single woman anywhere in the village. Yoon Binghua also wondered what happened here. Just then, an old man came over and explained, all the women in the village were taken by the bandits. The old man pointed at Yoon Binghua. Then he sincerely warned, Miss, if you don't want trouble, leave this mountain immediately. Jinbeek exclaimed in disbelief, You mean every woman in the village was taken by the bandits? The old man nodded, That's right, they take them hostage whenever the tribute is late or insufficient. Even Yoon Binghua couldn't hide her sorrow. There are people this cruel. Handong calmly asked about the enemy. Do you know the bandit chief's name? The old man fearfully answered, The chief of Blood Ghost Mountain is Chingang Chasa. He's the most ruthless man imaginable. Many martial arts masters have gone to subdue him, but not a single one returned alive. The old man sincerely advised them, I suggest you all leave this place as soon as possible. Jinbeek refused without fearing the danger. No, we'll destroy those bandits and rescue the hostages. Right, the other three nodded in agreement. Handong politely asked, please tell us where their stronghold is. Moved by their determination, the old man agreed. Understood. The blue sky and endless mountains stretched out like a beautiful painting. Yet as the four departed, the sky gradually turned dark purple, as if foretelling disaster. As they watched the group leave, the men in the village all wore strange expressions. The four walked farther and farther away from the village. Jinbeek spoke with concern. But does that Chingang Chasa really possess a spirit jade? Handong reassured him, we'll know once we meet him. Jinbeek's competitive spirit flared again. Even if he has a spirit jade, we'll definitely win, right? We have 2 spirit jade fragments and I've grown much stronger. Handong immediately corrected him. You must never underestimate the spirit jade's power. According to the section of the 8 Gates True Scripture I obtained in Anmun Fortress, the spirit jade's power varies greatly depending on its owner's level of mastery. In some cases, a single fragment can completely suppress all the others. This time, Yi-Jack didn't defend Jinbeek but warned him instead. Don't rely too much on the treasure's power. The most important thing is to become strong through your own training. Meanwhile, Yun Binghua heard a strange sound. Does anyone else hear that? A sound. They quickly realized what it was. It's the sound of clashing weapons. A battle is happening nearby. Let's go. In the distance, a fierce battle was underway. It was a fight between Gubyuk and a mysterious man. The man landed on the ground with a sly laugh. Ho ho. You're quite skilled. But do you really think you can defeat all of us by yourself? Hand over all your valuables and I'll spare your life. Gubyuk showed no fear and shot back, keep dreaming. Seeing that Gubyuk and Chenrock remained fearless, the man sneered. HMPH, it seems you don't value your lives. Then I'll send you to the underworld first and take your treasures afterward. Just as she was about to join the fight, Gubyuk and the man noticed something and turned around. To her right, a hand was channeling power to assist Gubyuk. Jinbeek unleashed his power, ready to join the battle. His aura made the man instantly more cautious. Who are you? Jinbeek smirked, you're asking my name. Since you're so curious, I'll satisfy you. People in the martial world call me the Fire Dragon Heavenly Lord. None of them recognized the title. What? Who is that? Embarrassed, Jinbeek blushed and stammered. Right then Handong called out Jinbeek. He scolded him, didn't I tell you not to rush out on your own? The leader realized these people were no ordinary fighters. He immediately ordered, retreat, withdraw now. After seeing them flee, Gubyuk finally sighed in relief. She politely said, thank you, hero, for saving us. Hearing that, Jinbeek became even more embarrassed. Hero. Gubyuk introduced them. This is young Master Chenrock and I am Gubyuk, his attendant. We were traveling to Nine Wall Fortress, got lost in the forest, and unfortunately encountered those bandits. Handong replied, there's no telling when they'll return. You should take a detour around the mountain instead. She nodded. Perhaps you're right, but may I ask one question? Chenrock also asked curiously, may I know where you heroes are heading? Jinbeek answered honestly, we're on our way to the bandits' stronghold to wipe them out. Handong immediately cut him off. Jinbeek. Chenrock praised them. As expected, you are true righteous heroes with compassionate hearts. I deeply admire you. Hearing that, Jinbeek became even more excited. You admire us. Chenrock then asked, if you don't mind, may we join you in eliminating the bandits? Gubyuk tried to stop him. Young master. Chenrock turned to look at her. Then he assured them, I promise we won't become a burden. Handong refused, it's far too dangerous. Just come with us to the nearest village. Chenrock sighed sadly. Is that so? What a pity. The wind rustled through the swaying trees. Chenrock and Gubyuk watched the 4 figures disappear into the distance. After they left, Gubyuk leaned closer and asked curiously, why did you say those things just now? Watching the 4 walk away, Chenrock said, they are the kind of people willing to risk their lives for suffering civilians. I want to see for myself what people with such righteous hearts can truly accomplish. The scene returned to the village they had just visited. More people had arrived there. A bunch of insignificant heroes dares challenge me. One subordinate reported to the man seated above. Their group has 3 men and 1 woman. One of the men is just a snot-nosed brat. The old man quietly listened. A woman. The bandit grew excited. Then I must see her for myself. The old man timidly added, she carries a pipa in her hands. Chingang Chasa became even more excited. Ha, just hearing that gets my blood pumping. At that moment, another man hurried in and reported, Chief, something big has happened. A group that looks like martial arts masters has entered our territory. He replied impatiently, I know already, shut your mouth. Chingang Chasa turned to the old man. "So, where have they gone?" he answered honestly. "I directed them straight into the formation." The chief praised him. "Well done." The old man hurriedly asked, "Chief, what about my little daughter?" Hearing that, Chingang Chasa tightened his grip on the chain in his hand. He said viciously, "When you bring me double the tribute next time, I'll order your daughter released." The old man could only stammer, "Why yes." Chingang Chasa smiled eagerly. "Good, now I'll see for myself just how beautiful she really is." Meanwhile, Handong looked around in confusion. "This is strange. According to the village elder, we should have reached the village by now. Did we lose our way?" Yun Binghua also felt uneasy. "For a while now, I felt like my sense of direction has been distorted." Handong turned around in alarm. "Wait, where's Jinbik?" Yijak added, "Not only him, but that young master and his guard have vanished too." He shouted, "Jinbik! Jinbik!" Jinbik was equally anxious. "What's going on? Where did my seniors go?" Gobyuk noticed it too. They disappeared without a trace in an instant. "This is so strange, as if ghosts are playing tricks on us." Jinbik kept shouting, "Brother Handong, Brother Yijak, Sister Binghua, where are you all?" Meanwhile, the fog around Handong gradually thinned. He sighed in relief. The thick fog has finally started to clear. Yijak urged, "Let's hurry and find Jinbik." Handong asked, "What about Miss Yoon?" His question made them realize something. Yoon Binghua had also lost the two of them. They suddenly disappeared as well. She felt dizzy. "My head is spinning. It feels like I've been walking in circles. Ever since entering this mountain, my mind and sense of direction have grown worse." She wearily closed her eyes. "First, let's block out the other senses and focus on listening to the sounds around us." As she listened, she heard rustling wind, squeaking mice, and flowing water. "There's the sound of water. If we follow it, we should find the path leading down the mountain." Suddenly, she stepped into a pit. Yoon Binghua fell into it. The long fall, combined with her exhaustion, caused her to lose consciousness. A voice calling her woke her up. "Sister." Yoon Binghua slowly sat up and looked around. Jinbik asked with concern, "Sister Binghua, are you feeling better now?" She was still confused. What exactly happened? Jinbik explained, "We got lost in the fog and accidentally fell into one of their traps. When I woke up, we were already imprisoned here." "Could this really be the bandits' stronghold?" Yoon Binghua nodded. "I think so. Come to think of it, where's my pipa?" Shinrak replied, "It seems the people who imprisoned us confiscated it. They also took all our weapons. The same happened to me. They stole all the valuables I carried." Gobyuk blamed herself. "I'm truly sorry. I was too weak to protect everyone." Jinbik comforted her. "It's all right. Brother Handong will definitely find and rescue us soon." Just then, someone approached from outside the cell. He opened the door, making Yoon Binghua instantly wary. The man stroked her face and grinned. "What a beautiful woman. The chief is truly lucky." "Come outside," she asked nervously. "Where are you taking me?" The man ignored her. "Enough talk, just come with us." Shinrak watched the man in silence. Jinbik became even more alert. "Sister Binghua." The man escorted her to a room. "Chief, we've brought her." Then he hurriedly shoved Yoon Binghua inside. "Get in already." Seeing Chingang Chasa, she gasped in amazement. Well, well, come a little closer." She looked at him warily. At Chingang Chasa's feet were countless other girls, their faces filled with sorrow and resignation. She suddenly noticed the lute in the corner of the room. Yoon Binghua pleaded, "Give my lute back." Chingang Chasa forced her onto a chair and praised her. "Up close, you're even more enchanting. You truly please my eyes." She did not resist and only stared at her lute. In the room where Chinrak, Jinbik, and Gobyuk were being held, he frowned and asked, "Sister Binghua, will she be all right?" Chinrak sighed. "Those bandits took every woman in the village. Could they have been brought here?" Jinbik replied, "I don't know. I only hope they're safe." He added, "What if they spare only the women while men like us are executed?" Jinbik sighed and pointed at Gobyuk beside him. "Who knows? You're Gobyuk, right? Could you push that chamber pot over here?" She nudged the chamber pot toward him with her foot. Jinbik calmly relieved himself and said, "Thanks, I almost wet myself," leaving Gobyuk stunned. "Here," he casually replied, "we're all men. What's there to be embarrassed about?" She shyly turned her head away, not knowing what to do. Then Jinbik let out a relieved sigh. "That feels much better." Chinrak suddenly spoke. "May I ask why you gentlemen came to wipe out these bandits?" He replied in surprise, "They kidnapped the villagers." Jinbik calmly explained, "My grandfather was also captured, so I'm on my way to rescue him. I can't ignore such injustice." He continued with concern, "Your grandfather was kidnapped?" "Yes, he's imprisoned in Hyeonjo Fortress." Shinrak continued, "Who could commit such a heartless crime?" Jinbik's face darkened as he answered, "Jucho and his subordinate, the white-faced divine nun." Hearing that, Gobyuk became suspicious and stared intently at Jinbik. Shinrak silently nodded without a word. Suddenly, one of the lackeys came to their cell. He said, "That chief is too much. He keeps every woman for himself," prompting Gobyuk and Shinrak to exchange a secret signal. She untied her hair. Gobyuk said, "Ah, it's so hot in here." She pretended to be exhausted, pulling down her collar and saying, "It's so stuffy." The lackey blurted out as he looked at Gubyuk's chest, a woman. She signaled him and coquettishly whispered, "SHH, if the chief finds out, we're in trouble, so stay quiet." Gubyuk beckoned him over. "Come here." The lackey immediately approached. He quickly unlocked the cell door with his key. The lackey eagerly walked inside toward Gubyuk. Delighted, he reached out to touch her. "Since you lured me here, stay still," Gubyuk said seductively. "Ha, of course." She struck the lackey's pressure point in a flash. He cried out in dizziness. The lackey fell flat onto the floor, leaving Jinbeek astonished. Gubyuk sneered as she searched his body and said, "You're the one who should stay still." She immediately took the shackles keys and said, "I'll free you all right now." Jinbeek stammered in surprise. Gubyuk is a woman. After she removed everyone's shackles, she respectfully stepped before Chinrock and said, "Young master, let's leave this place at once." Running behind them, he kept asking, "Gubyuk, you're a woman, so why disguise yourself as a man?" Deep in the mountains stood a village. A woman sat there playing the lute beautifully. Two dancers performed an enchanting dance. Chingangchasa happily drank wine while watching the beauties dance. He handed Yoon Binghu a cup and said, "I'm granting you this honor, now drink." Under Chingangchasa's expectant gaze, she could only drink in silence. Yoon Binghu thought to herself, "I must create an opportunity no matter what." Suddenly, the woman playing the lute snapped a string in panic. Chingangchasa angrily hurled his cup and shouted, "Don't you know how to play?" Yoon Binghu softly said, "Chief, let me play a tune to entertain you." He smirked and replied, "Oh, beautiful and talented too, go ahead." She thought to herself, "This is enough." Yoon Binghu quickly picked up the lute and began playing before everyone's eyes. Chingangchasa laughed excitedly. Even the other girls were captivated by the music. She played while slowly approaching Chingangchasa. He closed his eyes, quietly savoring the melody. Meanwhile, Chinrock, Gubyuk, and Jinbeek cautiously searched around. Gubyuk took the lead scouting and signaled, "The exit should be this way, but first I must retrieve the bracelet." She turned back and urged, "It's too dangerous, we have to escape now." Chinrock frowned and said, "That sacred guardian heirloom must never fall into evil hands, I have to get it back." At that moment, Chingangchasa was still engrossed in Yoon Binghua's music. She suddenly stopped playing, making him ask in confusion, "Why did you stop?" Yoon Binghua's eyes turned cold and resolute. She swiftly drew a sword hidden inside the lute. Chingangchasa's eyes widened. He raised a hand to shield his face as Yoon Binghua slashed at him. Her all-out strike landed squarely on Chingangchasa. Outside, Chinrock explained, "That bracelet is my family's guardian sacred heirloom." Chingangchasa's bracelet suddenly glowed and blocked the sword strike. He was astonished, realizing that as long as he wore the bracelet, it could stop any attack. Yoon Binghua immediately thrust her sword again. Chingangchasa grabbed the blade and sneered. She froze in shock. He burst into laughter at Yoon Binghua's resistance. "Ha ha ha." Chingangchasa glared with a sinister grin. He slapped Yoon Binghua hard across the face. She crashed headfirst onto the floor. Chingangchasa smiled wickedly. He slowly walked toward the unconscious Yoon Binghua. Handong said, "We followed the path the old man showed us, but couldn't find the mountain's stronghold and even got separated from our companions in the fog." He darkened his face and said angrily, "Please tell us the truth. Did you deliberately lure us into a trap?" The old man remained silent. Yijak said, "Sir, it's not just us. This village is also in grave danger." Yijak said, "Sir, it's not just us. This village is also in grave danger." He could only turn away and say, "I understand." The old man suddenly replied, "I'll personally lead you to the mountain stronghold." Meanwhile, Chingangchasa was examining Yoon Binghua's sword. He muttered as every strike bounced off the glowing bracelet, "How strange." Chingangchasa slyly smiled and said, "Looks like I unknowingly mastered the indestructible diamond body." Narrowing his eyes, he added, "My body has become much tougher too." Chingangchasa licked his lips wickedly, grabbed Yoon Binghua's arm and said, "Let's see how easily I can break it." The two women were too terrified to speak. Fortunately, Jinbeek arrived just in time and shouted, startling him, "Stop." He angrily yelled, "Take your filthy hands off Sister Binghua right now." Chingangchasa frowned, glanced at Jinbeek and asked, "How did you escape?" Ignoring everything, Jinbeek charged forward and said, "That's none of your business," while Chinrock barely had time to shout, "Wait." He quickly clenched his fist and gathered his strength. Without mercy, Jinbeek threw a straight punch at Chingangchasa. Feeling Jinbeek's power, Chinrock exclaimed, "Such tremendous internal energy." To everyone's surprise, he remained completely unharmed after the punch. Chingangchasa burst into laughter and said, "Just as I thought." He arrogantly declared, "Now I am invincible under heaven." Jinbeek's eyes widened in shock. He kept punching at Chingangchasa while shouting. Chingangchasa sneered, "Haha, is that all you've got?" Suddenly, Chinrock realized something. He carefully watched the light coming from the bracelet on Chingangchasa's wrist. Chinrock quietly called Gubyuk. Holding Jinbeek by the neck, he secretly thought, It seems this fool still doesn't know his incredible defense comes from the bracelet. Shinrak frowned and said worriedly, we must take it before he realizes where his power comes from, and Gubyuk replied seriously, understood. Jinbeek shouted, Chingangchasa, let me go. He punched Jinbeek in the face and said, what a noisy little brat still wet behind the ears. Jinbeek was sent flying by Chingangchasa's punch and cried out. He then picked up his weapon and declared, you cowards must be tired of living. Chingangchasa dragged his chained axe toward Jinbeek and declared, fine, I'll grant your wish. Refusing to give up, Jinbeek got back on his feet and declared, did you think I'd just sit here and die? Smirking, he praised Jinbeek, your body's pretty tough, but let's see if you can survive this strike. Chingangchasa hurled his chained axe at Jinbeek with tremendous force. He barely dodged the deadly strike from the weapon. The axe spun with tremendous force. As he swung the spinning axe through the air, everyone cried out in fear. Jinbeek cursed inwardly, that bastard doesn't care if others die, does he? Gubyuk seized the moment while Chingangchasa was exposed and smiled. She swung her sword to block the chain attached to his weapon. The two kept struggling against each other's weapons. Suddenly, the axe blade flew back toward Chingangchasa, making his eyes widen. Smirking confidently, he stopped the axe blade with his bare hand. But he fell into her trap as she used the chain to bind Chingangchasa. He grimaced in annoyance as the iron chain restrained him. Seeing the bracelet on Chingangchasa's wrist, Gubyuk thought, now's the chance. His eyes suddenly filled with killing intent. Chingangchasa slammed the axe handle into her body, making Gubyuk cough. Shinrak cried out in fear, Gubyuk. She was instantly sent flying. He staggered forward step by step, breathing heavily. Chingangchasa growled, how dare filthy men trespass into my sacred place. He once again spun the chain around. Chingangchasa hurled it at Gubyuk with all his strength, saying, I'll tear you all in half. Shinrak could only shout a warning, Gubyuk, get out of the way. Hearing him call her name, Gubyuk froze in place. Fortunately, Jinbeek dashed in like lightning and intercepted the deadly attack aimed at Gubyuk. She stared at him in terrified disbelief.